Hi, I'm Quentin Tarantino.
I'm Robert Rodriguez.
And we're doing the...
Dusk Till Dawn Laserdisc commentary.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. We've been talking about doing this since we were shooting the movie. We couldn't wait to get to this point.
Exactly. It's been this is the first one of these I've ever done.
Oh, that's right. You always said you were going to do a Pulp Fiction one.
Yeah, but I never did. I always said I was going to do a Reservoir Dogs one. I never did. Because I couldn't make myself watch my movie all the way through again, you know. See, you directed this one, so it's easy.
Right. I've seen it a million times. Right. I'm used to that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, those movies you followed around on the festival circuit forever.
Yeah,
you sat through them so many times afterwards.
This is the most fresh I've ever been at a film at this point. We are now looking at one of my favorite actors in the whole world, Michael Parks.
I think this is the first and only actor that you said, and this is the person I really want to be in this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, the first person I think I cast was you.
Right.
But the second person was Michael Parks.
Exactly.
Because after I cast you and you were on full, you said, this is who I had in mind. Actually, when you wrote the script.
Right, exactly. Correct? Yeah, about 5-6 years ago. Which
is something you said you wouldn't do anymore, is write a script for an actor in particular, because then they start giving you notes on how to write them.
It's so funny. It's like before you cast an actor, all right, like if they feel that they have to fight to get the part or something like that, they will just, they'll have their agents call you, their mother call you and everything like that. But the minute you say, I've written this script for you, what do you think? All right, all of a sudden they're coming back with notes and, well, it wasn't quite exactly what I was thinking.
Right. Now, Michael, of course, didn't.
But Michael didn't do that.
Michael came in here and made this. I had to say, this is my favorite scene in the movie. When I first got your script and I read this scene, I think I went on and on about it. Mm-hmm. First, you had acted it out for me, then because you couldn't find a copy of the script, and then you gave me the script and I read, and I thought, next to the pussy speech, I think this is my favorite scene in the whole movie. So we were looking so forward to shooting this scene.
Oh, you better believe it. And it's also, I just love the fact that Michael Parks has always been one of my favorite actors. I've watched his work forever, and I love the fact that in this opening scene, if you don't know what's happening, this looks like Michael Parks is the star of the movie.
Yeah,
this looks like a Jack Nicholson movie, and he's Jack Nicholson right now. I mean, he has given all the power of the lead of a movie.
Right.
And he holds it.
No, definitely. That's why I didn't want to cut away from him. I thought, this is the way Quentin would shoot this scene, because it's such a long dialogue piece. There's no quick. I cut over so you get to recognize the clerk, so he becomes important. But it stays on Michael because he was. I don't know if you can tell the camera's shaking, but I was laughing. So I hadn't laughed behind the camera, and I was operating. The camera was starting to shake. My 8C was patting my back, trying to calm me down, because I was laughing through the whole scene quietly, shaking the camera, because he was just cracking me up. He was doing such a wonderful job.
He's just so. It's like, because I know his rhythm of speech and everything. That's one of the things I've liked about his films and stuff. And
you had said that to me, and you would imitate him when you'd read that part to me. And when I'm reading it, I always read it differently. When he came in and started doing it, then I understood exactly what you were talking about.
Oh, that's what Quentin was doing in his office.
You were actually doing a great impersonation of Michael Parks. And it gives a different. It gave a different rhythm to your writing.
Well, you were saying when you were watching it, you were like, oh wow, because most people say my dialogue real fast, and you were saying, oh god, Michael's getting a different rhythm out of a different reading out of Quentin's dialogue and everything by really slowing it down to a snail's pace.
I actually mounted a zoom lens on my camera for the first time because I actually wanted to push into him while he was talking, and each take was different. It just depended on how I felt in the take, and this was one of the last takes.
But this zoom into this close-up right at this right moment,
it just felt so
cool.
Good. That's why I love to operate the camera, because you really get locked in there with the actor before you know it. You're on his eyeball.
Right, now it's
he's pulling me. He's literally pulling me into him. Is what he was doing. And this scene, I think, was originally 6 pages in your script. Mm-hmm. But since Michael gave it so much weight, and because I didn't want to leave this scene, and we're having such a good time, it turned out to be over 10 minutes. It's 11 minutes, this whole opening sequence, which is more than a reel. So it's probably the longest opening sequence in movie history, before the credits even come on.
Well, you had to beat the Desperado opening sequence,
that was 6 minutes.
Pretty glorious, too. This is so cool. Just this introduction right here.
Yeah, I just dreamt about this scene every night, or however we'd shoot it. And it was actually something we shot later on in the schedule. So you guys were already the Gecko Brothers. You had already shot everything else.
Right.
We shot all the bar stuff already. Mm-hmm. So you guys were already clicking. And you did something interesting when you rewrote the script. You wrote yourself way back compared to how he was. If anyone ever read the original script, Richie was up front doing half of this dialogue.
Right, exactly. Well, it was like, I had Richie saying quips,
jokes, and he actually sounded more like you before, which is why in my kind of cast, and I thought, hey, Quinn, why don't you play Richie?
Yeah.
And then you took the script and you rewrote it and made him so unlike you that you had a real character to play.
Right. Well, that was it. I was tired of doing stuff like that, and I really I tried to attach, approach Richie it's just this wild, crazy vampire movie. But I tried to approach him like a serious movie about a real schizophrenic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That he doesn't know he's in a vampire film. He thinks he's in Dead Man Walking or something. And so I always had he wouldn't say a joke.
Right. Exactly.
Give it to George. Give George the joke.
Your best jokes. And man, Quinn, you're giving away all your best jokes. And I don't care, just give them to George. And you actually made yourself stronger that way. And I had fun putting George way up front,
right,
and sticking you way far back, so that people really didn't get a good look at you. Because at that point, everyone thought that they knew you so well. So let them see George up close.
Right.
Put you in the back and make them feel like they don't know you at all. Mm-hmm. This guy's good. This is John Hawkes.
Right.
He was actually my backup to Steve Buscemi if Steve Buscemi couldn't do Desperado. And I thought, he's the guy from Austin. He's an actor.
He worked with you on Road Racers.
Yeah, he's actually in Road Racers. Mm-hmm. And then we had this part was going to go to Steve also. We thought of Steve Buscemi here. And Steve couldn't do it.
And then
he was directing his movie.
And then it was going to go to Tim Roth,
who was going to do a Texas accent.
Right, exactly. And then he couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it because it was a 3-day. This was a 3-day shoot.
Yeah,
and
at the end of our schedule.
Right.
So
we couldn't hold him to it.
Given up a movie in order to do
he'd have to
2 days.
He'd have to give up a whole 2 movies to wait for us. And so then we brought in John. John got to come in and rip it up here.
Well, but remember how weird it was? We were auditioning all these actors, and to me, how he should play it was so obvious because I thought it was actually really on the page.
That's something that you always think is on the page. I didn't realize in my own scripts how little is actually on the page when it's inside your head.
I mean,
you would tell me that it's all there, and I would read and I go, well, I don't see it there. Explain it to me. And then I would see it. Once you get in your head, you can see it.
It was so weird because all these actors would read it, and to me they just didn't understand what Pete's dynamic was supposed to be in this situation.
They're playing it too nervous from the beginning, or they weren't being the Academy Award-winning actor
exactly.
that he should have been.
Right, exactly.
They weren't laid back enough, and just really showing the dynamics of it. And this was just so much fun. I think this is actually according to the script. The action goes, but we didn't.
Yeah.
We got to really spread it out and make the place a little bigger.
Right, exactly.
And turn it into just a full opening action scene.
Oh, I know.
Really, just make people think there's no horror at all in this picture.
Well, I have to say that along with the fight scene in True Romance, this is my favorite piece of action that I've ever written.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff of him being resourceful and you.
Right.
I mean, I remember when we first walked in the set, you're like, this layout is all wrong. Where are we supposed to be hiding? Because the production design team had to go off and do their own thing. We're moving so quickly.
Right.
You guys are actually in the same aisle. I mean, if you just look to your left and George looks to his right, you'd be looking right at each other. You're about 10 feet apart.
I know. Well, I mean, it was so kind of crazy and frustrating at the time when I actually walked on the set to do the scene and saw the actual set because it's they did something different with it.
Exactly.
Where what I wrote was just what you would see if you walked into 20 liquor stores would be set up the way I wrote it.
Right.
All right.
The
one oddball one, all right, is the one they designed.
Like you guys just walked out of the aisle that you're in together. But I said, don't worry, the way I'm just used to shooting this way, where you guys will be right next to each other.
And
by the time it's finished editing, no one will know that you're standing right by each other. Just look somewhere else when he calls your name. That'll set the geography all wrong.
I go, you didn't have to recreate a brand new liquor store when I was using the idea that they're so familiar.
Right, exactly.
But it all works.
Yeah,
exactly.
The little popcorn gag here was to replace a gag that you had in the script that read funny but wouldn't look funny.
Right.
It was that he goes crashing into the Hostess Twinkie stand.
Right, exactly.
But since he's on fire, you wouldn't see the Hostess Twinkie.
Right.
So I knew I needed a comic
It reads funny though.
Yeah, it reads funny, and that was the tone I needed there, so people would know that this is an exploitation kind of horror film or action film that has a really twisted sense of humor. So we added the popcorn popping there, so people would get a sick laugh at the end of that.
Well, it's funny though because you were saying, I shot this sequence or I thought of this kind of from time to time how I might think about it.
Right.
What I crack up is my original script I wrote. Everyone talks about Robert Rodriguez's trademark as people walking away from a building on fire, exploding, and no one looking back and everything.
Right.
Well, I had originally it was in the original script. The building is burning down as they walk away and they don't look back. And remember, to save money in the rewrite I did, I took it out. All right, because it'll make it a little easier to do. No, you put that back in.
That was the whole reason I'm doing the thing, man. Yeah, the first time I read that, I'd already shot this opening scene, and I'd seen that as one long tracking shot, exploding, because I never had the budget at the time to do anything like that in one of my earlier films, do a one-taker like that. Uh-huh. This was going to be a one-take shot where you guys are actually walking out of a building full of bombs, and it's going off as you're doing your dialogue. One of those kind of real director kind of shots. And we ended up having to do it 3 times because we kept blowing it. The actors didn't blow it, just our effects kept blowing it.
Well, it was funny. There was a great story where Tom Bellissimo, special effects guy who does all the bombs and fire and everything. He told a story about how we were in the liquor store. We're waiting to go for the first take.
Exactly.
Now, me and George are in the liquor store. It's mined with bombs. It's all ready to go. We're waiting for action. All right. And then he all of a sudden he walks into the liquor store while we're waiting for action. He goes, "You know what?" He talks with a New York accent. He goes,
"You know what, you guys?"
Yeah, you know what, you guys? He's from Brooklyn. I'd feel better being in this liquor store, because if something by chance would have happened and these bombs would all of a sudden go off
with you guys in
I would rather be in here with you, all right, than across the street watching it happen.
That way I die a hero instead of being the guy that's blamed for blowing you guys up.
Everyone would be like, and everybody died. Yeah, poor Tom too, man. As opposed to, Tom, you idiot! You killed Quentin and George Clooney.
That was pretty nerve-wracking.
Now I have to say, I loved this whole opening credit scene. It's one of my favorite things in the whole movie is this opening. But
that's something we wrote later on, too.
Exactly,
You wrote later once we knew we were making the movie.
Right.
And you came back saying, I want us driving, and you're really getting into the movie. We're all getting into the character of the movie.
Right, exactly.
And getting into what kind of movie it was. Mm-hmm. And you want these guys driving blazing down the road, dirt all over the place, spit, drinking, popping pills.
Duct tape
in their hand, just make it like really crazy.
I love the whole fact that, this is Mark Lawrence. We put him in 4 rooms. He's been in a zillion movies, The Asphalt Jungle, going way back. The Mean Old Bastard.
You wrote him as the mean old bastard. We knew exactly.
He is the mean. He's the perfect mean old bastard.
He went off and off. There's so much lost footage of him here, just going on and on and on. We couldn't get the lines out of him. He just went on, and it was really great. He just kept going.
Well, I love my friend Scott Spiegel, he's going to be doing a Dust Till Dawn 2. He's going to be directing that. When he saw the film, he loved all the different actors in it, and he goes, Mark Lawrence. Now look at him, okay? He's on the movie for 30 seconds, and he gives a memorable performance.
Exactly. Yeah, he's really good. He really comes in and really commits.
But I just wanted to say one thing about a shot that we saw earlier, just for a second.
The Superman vision.
Yes,
shot.
I love it. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The shot of the girl in the Brenda Hill house, my old acting teacher, in the cab of the car. When you see it through the car,
right.
I just liked writing Superman vision.
Exactly.
But you knew what I meant in the script.
Exactly. It was so hard. It was so strange when you would do a movie like this on your own. You would come up with a way to do that. But I remember we had our visual effects supervisor that we ended up firing because they couldn't come up with how to do the Superman vision shot, and saying it would cost like $20,000. Are you kidding? Every low-budget movie that ever been made had the Superman vision. Look at any of the movie from the 20s or 30s. They did that. It's just a dissolve. It's not a computer matching, and so we got rid of it. It doesn't have to be
actually. It could be done as cheesily as a Superman cartoon.
In fact, if you don't make it cheesy, it's not going to work.
Correct. Exactly.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
No, it's funny because, one of the things I tell people, and you'll see it coming up, you've just seen one and you'll see another one coming up here. People say, hey, Quentin, you were really scary as Richie and everything. Well, it's easy when every time I have, my eyelids move, you have this, surround sound.
You know what that whoosh is I cannibalize sound effects we work really hard on. In Desperado, we had a real atmospheric rumble, actually, in the first opening scene, when the biggest Mexican who ever lived walks in the door and the whole room starts to shake. I just kept all the sound effects, and I would just bring that in on my Avid while I was editing this. Whenever we had a dark moment with Rich, so that's the connection you have there with the Desperado character. No, when people would mention that Superman vision shot, and it was just really set up well. The fact that this movie was something that was real drive-in, real exploitation, real you didn't know what to expect next.
And the place in the credit sequence it happens is just so great because we really are selling that these are
really bad
ass motherfuckers, all right? And just when we've bought that they are badass motherfuckers, we see they have an old lady in the trunk. They're even worse than we thought.
Exactly. And you said,
bad as we thought they were, they're even worse.
And you said, I don't want this nice, saucy little, bank teller. I want like a real, someone who reminds you of your mother.
Right,
there.
exactly.
So just really drive it home that these guys don't care and that Richie will do anything.
Yeah, it's not like some blonde bombshell.
Right.
It's like a real-looking woman.
Someone who does not
belong.
She doesn't belong in this movie. Get her out of here.
She does not belong in this movie.
She's innocent. Leave her alone. Really freak people out. And I think that's really what helped us. We didn't have any problem with the ratings board, for instance, because they knew the tone of the film going in.
Exactly.
I mean, you kept it where it wasn't Henry the serial killer, although there's some of those dark moments coming up.
This
overall,
sequence right
it had a much more different, it had a real drive and tone to it, so we got away with, just making a fun movie.
Well, existence as far as the ratings board is concerned, we can do all the stuff with the vampires, and that's all crazy and wild and everything. But this part here, that's the really realistic part of the movie. That's we're this is for real. Her pain is for real, her terror is for real, and we're for real.
Right, and this is something that you wrote in later.
Right, exactly.
This is something you added in after we were already going to make the movie. Before, it just went from you guys robbing the bank to kidnapping the family.
Right.
So it didn't have this thing. This was something new that you added.
Yeah, the script that was before I did my rewrite, before we did this, never got this real.
Exactly.
This is much more serious business.
I remember when you were telling me your idea about this, and it was still in its early forms. You were doing this to her in the car, but you hadn't quite figured out how to lay it down. But you were just asking if I would be interested in that. I said, yeah, because it was just something. It was a new arm of horror that wasn't in there yet, and it was something that went more realistic before going the other way. Now, and that kind of was kind of cool. I thought. Explore all those things.
Yeah, it's there was I remember reading a couple of reviews that said they didn't like this sequence because they it threw them off.
Yeah,
because
completely throws you off.
It was so real. I like the fact that taking responsibility for the this character's death and their pain and their fear, and it really roots Richie and Seth. One way or the other.
Right.
They are not roguish good guys.
Right. Exactly.
They're not just good guys that step outside the law. No, they're the real deal.
Exactly.
All right. This could happen to Juliet.
Right.
This could happen to Harvey. All right. And Richie is worse and is in more trouble than Seth is.
Right.
But you don't see Seth leaving either.
Right.
After he does what he does.
About 2 more hours.
The introduction of
the Fuller family.
Jacob, the Fuller family.
To the border.
I always wanted to cast Harvey in this. I don't know why I saw him as a preacher, and you always mentioned that Harvey. And I know why, because of his strength. You thought he would be too dominating. And what ended up happening is he ended up playing this very meekly, and you guys ended up just dominating him so much in this first scene coming up. When you guys take over him, that it didn't turn out to be a problem.
Well,
but now looking back, I know that that's what the concern was.
Well, it's funny because it's there was one aspect of Harvey playing it that I really liked, is in the aspect of there's a lot of aspects of Harvey playing it that I liked, but initially,
Just one night sleep.
one of the things in Desperate Hours style movies, the character that I usually have the hardest time warming to and seeing through their eyes is the father, the patriarch, who's kind of caught as the hostage, because it's the whole situation of him taking care of his family as a man. Would you let a bunch of guys push you around?
Right.
Would you let a bunch of guys dominate you, in particular in front of your wife or your family or whatever the deal is? So those are always the hardest character to keep respect for.
Right.
And Harvey's going to come at it so strong and everything, he's not going to take even the weak choice as the actor and stuff, that he's just waiting for his right move.
Exactly. That's what we turned it into, more like that. And everyone's got to watch this guy.
That really comes across as Jacob. He's not, he's not a pussy. He's waiting for the right move. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it he's so together. He's not going to do anything out of machismo or bravado.
Right.
If he's going to do something, it's going to be the right time. But it was the scary thing about for me and George is we have to dominate Harvey.
Exactly.
And many actors, I've seen many of the films where other actors were supposed to dominate Harvey. The crux of the scene was supposed to be that they were dominating Harvey's character, and it didn't work.
Right.
All right, because they didn't obviously dominate him.
Right.
He obviously actually had his hand on the controls.
Right.
And that was the challenge.
Exactly.
And in my mind, when I was getting ready for the character, this is even before rehearsal. Right. Harvey's almost like my father. I'm I'm very close to him and stuff. But when we were preparing the character, when I was preparing my character, again, even before we got to the rehearsal stage, I started getting resentful.
Right.
To Harvey. In my mind, I was just you know what? He thinks he's going to come down and he's going to do this little groovy little monster movie, and it's all going to be a lot of fun. All right? But, I'm taking him over, man. That's the deal. All right? And I'm and he better give me the respect. And if we're doing a scene and I don't get the respect from him that I need to get as I'm holding him hostage, then I'll take him aside and I'm going to come on the set with a gun in a gym bag with a real clip in it. All right? And then if he doesn't give him their circle, I'll say, okay, well, let's put a real bullet in this gun, motherfucker, and let's let's see if the scene plays a little differently, huh? All right.
I remember.
Obviously, I didn't need to do that, all right? Because
Exactly.
Harvey's real. You know, he's there. I'm working all this up in my mind before I view this, like, you know, antagonism before I even show up.
I remember when you mentioned that to me. It was before we started shooting. I thought maybe you've been in this apartment too long, becoming Richie.
That was totally the case.
But it worked great. It worked great. I mean, because you all ended up having to shoot those scenes in the hotel. Those were the first.
Right.
That was the first day of shooting. Was the scene in the hotel that we just saw.
Well, it was funny because I mentioned to I bumped into Harry Dean Stanton and I was like telling him that whole story and everything. He goes, Harvey saw that in you. That's why you didn't have to do that.
Yeah. By then he was broke. By the rest of the movie, he was so into character all the time that I started thinking, wow, Harvey's really getting old. He's walking around so with his shoulders slumped all the time, and he didn't look. But by the end of the day, he would have a cigar in his mouth, his suit on, to be all spruced up out on the town, and I realized that he was just acting all day.
I think of Harvey as like this stud, and he's like walking around like an old man, you know, with his pants up to his, like, you know.
I love that shot of. I just noticed when we were talking here, that shot of Pete holding up a big fish.
That gets a great laugh.
That was something in the script. This too was in the script. This wasn't things that I added in. This was something that you had written in. And then of course, I had to bring John in.
John Saxon, man. Remember, like, you know...
we're trying to find somebody to play the FBI guy, and we ran through a couple of people. I know I wanted to use Bill Sadler, who was great. He wasn't available. And then we're at a Fangoria convention. And
yeah, exactly. We had the Fangoria convention announcing this movie.
Exactly, that's
and John Saxon is there giving a personal appearance.
He saved us. He comes up, and he actually put out his hand and said hello to us, or whatever. And then he said, by the way, if you need an FBI agent, I'm right here. We're like, oh, my God.
Oh, man.
We do need an FBI
If it had been a snake, it would bit us. Man.
It was really funny.
And we just, even in the theater, I mean, he's so loved by genre fans. Just in the theaters,
as soon as it comes
as soon as he comes on, oh, John.
That's really cool.
Kelly Preston, by the way, was just on. She does such a great job as this character, Kelly Hogue.
Right, Kelly Hogue.
I produced this other film for Miramax called Curdled that we needed another sequence like that, and I wrote another Kelly Hogue sequence to put into that movie.
And she actually shot it, right?
Yeah,
That's right. I saw her in the trailer.
Girl, yeah.
She's the girl in it. So she
I'm going to put her and Kelly Hogue in all my movies. You've got
explaining.
In Zorro, she'll be up there.
Got to show her in there giving the interviews. That brings us to the casting of George, actually, because one trial, I think we had already cast Harvey when we were casting the character of Seth, and that was what made it so hard to just cast any young actor as Seth, because we said there's got to be someone we know can dominate Harvey, and that's not easy to find.
No, especially in a younger actor. Yeah.
Right, we just went through the list and thought, none of these guys. They're going to have to be proving the whole movie that they're tough. They're not going to be walking in feeling that these guys can do anything.
Right, exactly.
We don't want that. We know that. How did you put it? That Harvey wouldn't even downshift before he.
Right, exactly.
I have the guy blowing him.
You have to buy the fact that, like, Harvey wouldn't just kick this guy's ass.
And we had a few ideas, but none of them really were crazy about it. I remember I was driving you back from somewhere. We went out to eat somewhere, and I mentioned George. I said, no, we probably can't get him, but because of his TV. In fact, we probably can't work it at all because of his TV show. His hiatus is going to be too short. Right. But what do you think about George Clooney? Because every idea we'd throw out to each other, we'd shoot it down before it got anywhere. And you went, and they actually paused for like 2 full seconds. That's an interesting idea.
Right. I had just finished working with him.
Exactly, on ER.
On ER. I directed him on ER and everything.
And then we checked it out. And
no, I was just going to work with him.
Yeah.
I was just about to.
Right.
I mean,
because then you went and mentioned to him a couple of days later that you were thinking about him, and he was all into it. So.
And the thing that I remember, like, because I'd seen every episode of ER. That's why I did the show.
Right.
But one of the things I remember, there was an episode where he's a pediatric guy, pediatric surgeon on the show, doctor, and he realized that, like, this father was abusing this kid, and he just flips out and he goes out into the waiting room and he punches the guy out. And I remember I watched all these ERs with Alex Rockwell, and remember Alex saying something to the effect of, he's the only guy on the show that would have been an option.
Right.
Anthony Edwards, Eric LaSalle, none of them. None of them would have, like, 1 + 1 = 2. I'm going to kick that guy's ass.
Right.
All right. But like George has that.
Right. No, that was really neat because it was the first film that he had done, since being on ER. No one's really offering him movie roles. In fact, he went through the list of the other movies he had, and there were like fourth banana parts.
Yeah.
And stuff.
He told me a great story about the fact that, like, there was this one movie that he was meeting on to get a part in it and everything, and it would have been like the fourth lead, the Dwayne Eddy role in the 60s, Richard Rowe, George Hamilton, and Frankie Avalon. All right, he was getting the Frankie Avalon roles.
Right.
And And then and they're like, well, we're thinking about it. All right, we cast him in this. The next day, they turn around and give him the offer for the lead.
Exactly. Everyone's very, very reactive in Hollywood. So if you make the move, they realize, oh shit, he's going to be a big star, and it wasn't our idea. He was there in front of us already.
Right.
But now that someone else made the move, now we've got to make them. He got so many offers that day, and he just blew them all off. Like, sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys.
And this was going to do it for him because it really gave him the chance to do something so different.
I love this shot. I love this shot.
I was like making George's demo reel. That's what I was doing.
Exactly.
Said, George, we're going to get you work after this. We're going to show him that you're not just a doc on TV, that you can play dangerous, you can have that edge that they're all looking for. And now he's Batman. So it worked really good.
What were you saying? You said, if I can't make a movie star out of George Clooney, I got to go to movie jail.
I go to movie hell for that, because here's a chance to really feature someone no one's seen up on the big screen.
Right, exactly.
And give him the chance to do something so different from what he does on television.
Right.
And we just had to give him that opportunity. And what was cool is that you wrote your character so far back that allowed us to do that.
Right.
By the way, that kid isn't playing that good. That's Jimmy Vaughn doing the guitar work for him. Jimmy Vaughn was going to do some music, and I said, hey, quick, give me some quick music notes.
Me and my lady friend need some ice, and we don't seem to have an ice bucket. If it's not too much trouble, could I possibly borrow yours? I'll bring it right back.
One thing, I don't know.
This is my John Malkovich scene, right?
This is your John Malkovich scene. You're so creepy in this whole thing. I have such great outtakes of this. They were all great. That's part of the fun of editing. And one reason why I do so many cuts is because I'm such a pack rat when it comes to this stuff. If I got a line that I really like in one take, and another line, I'll use all the best stuff, all the greatest hits of you guys, and just cut away to Harvey or something, just to utilize the best cool lines that you guys have, because I just want to preserve all that stuff. I just like having it.
Well, one of the things that we, when we were shooting the movie that we did, was I was explaining to the other actors that when you're doing a film with Robert, as far as an actor is concerned, one actor is always the dog in the scene, which it has to go back to
That's
Mariachi.
Right. The dog that you cut away to.
Yeah, that at any point, if you want to get out of any kind of trouble that you're in or whatever.
Or just to utilize two good lines that are from different takes, I'll cut to the dog, which is shot to Harvey laying there. And some days, George realized when it was your scene that he was the dog.
He's the dog.
Or he'd go, Juliet, you're the dog today.
Sit in the corner and look cool.
Just give lots of cool looks, because he'll use them, he'll need them. And, those are funny.
Now, this was always actually one of my favorite parts in the
script. This was like our third day of filming, so you guys are just kicking ass on this, because you guys haven't really had a feeling for what it's like, but you guys hung out actually a lot, George and you.
We were never more intense than this whole first concentrated week of shooting.
Exactly.
Because the first 2 days of shooting was the hostage Gloria scene.
Right, and then this three days into it.
And this was the last 3 days. This was the last at the end of the week. I remember, this is no joke, when we were doing this scene, halfway through this scene, we went to, I pulled George in the bathroom. Actually, hold on for a second. I like this part.
Yeah, this is something that you added to the script of you starting to flip out and see, we're seeing it through your eyes, how normal you seem to be to yourself. And I got into it. I wanted to add this little thing, all this more point of view things of yours. So people, those in the audience who missed it would get it the second time when you're looking her over and really seeing things through your eyes, really puts you in the eyes of the character.
I can honestly say that's actually one of my favorite things I've ever written. Is just having Juliet just turn to me and I love the fact that for 15 seconds you see the world through Richie's eyes.
It's not the place you want to be, but it does make you almost understand him a little bit. Oh well, that's kind of she did ask for it.
That happened as far as he was concerned.
All that stuff's really going on. You there's nothing wrong with you really.
Now what I was saying before, during this scene there was at some point. On the first day we were shooting, like I said, we shot it for 3 days.
Right.
At some point, me and George were thinking we got to dominate Harvey, we got to do all this, and we got to do it right from the get-go, right off the bat. I pulled him into the kitchen. I pulled him into the bathroom of that hotel at some point, and I said, "We got him, man. We got him. We just keep the guns." I mean, we were talking like we were not like two actors brothers. Talking about how to deal with these other actors, but like Richie and Seth.
Right.
It's like he ain't gonna do jack fucking shit. All right, I'm watching him, man. All I have to do is put the gun on his kid, and he ain't gonna do anything. We own these people. They'll do anything we say as long as we fuck with his kid.
Right. This was really cool, just seeing George get to come in here and do, because I mean, I'm watching the dailies and I'm realizing, the gut instinct was right. He really is. He holds the screen. He's a movie star.
Totally.
And it was cool knowing that no one was going to know that for
Right.
another 8 months until this movie came out. But did you know it there just looking at it, early drafts of this?
And the scene they just played a little second ago, the moment where Harvey gets up and walks to the door, that happened.
Right.
That happened in rehearsal. That wasn't
Yeah,
written down there
he'd
like
improvise stuff like that.
It was just kind of experiencing the scene, and let's see what would happen if I did do that.
Yeah, Harvey was great. I mean, he should be directing his own movies. I mean, he was going through improvisations and stuff like he does in his acting methods that he does, and he was really taking each scene further than the genre usually dictates. This was so weird about this movie. It's such a genre picture, but you got these great actors, and you never see anything like this before. You probably never see one again. Where you have Harvey Keitel, Juliet Lewis, George in a slasher, in a biker flick.
Lucio Fulci zombie movie.
That's so funny because all these scenes that should just be we should be shooting in 30 minutes. We could actually spend a day or two, or like that opening scene, 3 full days to shoot and turn it into. Oh, it was just a wonderful experience knowing that we're making a very fun movie. But on the other hand, we're getting to just let everyone kind of spread their wings and try things out and making it worthwhile for everybody.
Now, this thing with that grind my teeth stuff. All right,
Yeah,
I had just been fitted for a mouth
so you just
place.
gotten that? Okay.
Yeah, I just been fitted for a bit because I do grind my teeth at night.
Come on, man. Mine are getting worse.
Oh gosh,
They're like falling apart.
you gotta get a bit.
I know, and I've got one back in Texas, and I just forget to bring it over, and I grind my teeth to hell. And we're sitting around. What was the rehearsal time?
Yeah, and I like just added because I thought it was a nice little human moment in there and everything, and it is. And then I bring it up, all right, and then me, you, Juliet, Harvey all mentioned about how oh, you grind your teeth? I grind my teeth too. I grind my teeth. George is the only one that doesn't grind his teeth.
Everyone was.
He doesn't have the inner angst that we have.
that extra, the nervousness there. That just at night, wake up with particles of teeth in your mouth. It's terrible. But that actually turned out to be a great little moment there.
Now, this scene was always a very important scene to me in the script.
This is the scene we always talked about, just in casting the Seth part, because we said, who's going to be able to survive this road trip for one? It's got to be somebody who can sit there and just put Harvey in his place, or Harvey's going to kick their ass.
Exactly.
And George is so great in this. He just blows off everything Harvey says about his wife.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
They really sticks it in and break it out, don't they?
To me,
great.
It's funny because I'm never. I don't take a page count that seriously when I'm writing a script and everything because I always, I write so much dialogue that it all, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's kind of off, but I know organically where we should be in a story at a certain time.
Right.
And this scene is important to happen about midway through.
Right.
All right, because now they're kind of it's like the two warring opposites are having a mild truce.
Right.
They're agreeing to disagree.
Right, exactly.
Basically, it's like Jacob's camp and Seth's camp. They have to smoke the peace pipe just a little bit, or they're gonna kill each other right now.
Right.
And I came up with it. You said you wanted an action scene earlier in this.
Right.
And I wrote the best action scene I've ever written.
That's right. We said let's put in one more. Even the studio thought we needed one more action beat for this. Let's really milk the whole action exploitation. Because originally when you wrote this to be a very, very low budget movie.
Right, exactly.
So I thought, well, now that we got more money, what else can we do to this thing?
Right.
Let's put an extra beat before this scene.
Right.
To kind of sedate the audience a little bit for this. It turns out we didn't need it at all.
Yeah.
But you did write an incredible action scene that took place in a hotel, much like the Getaway kind of hotel in Texas hotel.
It's not, but I don't want to get a little action scene. All of a sudden, Stallone's on a bus and someone takes a fight with him. All right, it was a 20-minute set piece. Am I right?
It was a big set piece.
It would have required $1 million more, which they would have given us.
Oh yeah, they didn't mind. They wanted to see it.
Yeah.
They knew we had all the elements to make something extra in there.
And they wait forever for me to finish writing the scene. I give it to them. Everyone starts changing everything in order to accommodate this scene. And then I remember, I wrote it. I couldn't have been more happier with it. I give it to you, and then the next day I come in. Do you remember I come into the office?
You came in with that look on your face like, uh-oh, he's taking it back.
And I said, we can't do this scene. And the reason we can't do it is because that scene between Seth and Jacob will happen too late in the script.
Right.
And it'll become 100% Richie and Seth's movie.
Right.
Where it needs to be Seth and Jacob's movie.
Right. And I agree with you. So we dropped it and we went on a shot. And it was just before.
But one of us is going to do that scene someday eventually.
I took it already. It's mine. You gave it to me, and I'm taking that as a, that's like a handshake. It's mine now.
But I have to be in that scene, though.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Zorro, I have to be the guy.
You're the only one who could do it. I mean, when someone reads that scene someday, they'll know why. I love that whole bit with you like staring her down. This is a scene that you wrote for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You wrote with my. There's a lot of things like the woman actually going to your bed. I forgot to mention that. There's some things that I really shot in your style, like when the camera's behind you guys and you're driving up to the hotel. Dialogue scenes that you write. You write your big dialogue scenes, and I thought, well, I need to shoot this differently from how I shoot.
Right.
And I want to actually adapt some of Quentin's style and how like the woman walks over to you in the bed. Kind of kick back and get the wide angles.
At the time, I hadn't even realized. I hadn't even thought about that in any way while we were shooting it.
Right.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember or not, it was like, I've seen the movie like 5 times or something, and I called you, and I was talking to you on the phone once, and I go, I'm like looking at I go, Robert doesn't normally shoot through doorways. Were you kind of trying to, but I do all the time.
Exactly.
And then you go, yes, no, I was going for that thing there.
I was going for, this was a Quentin movie. I mean, it was really scripted by you. It had the feel, and as much as you want to, you can't really completely adapt it to your own style because it has kind of a style dictated already. Not completely, but in some ways it served itself better to kind of kick back at times. And that scene there.
But that scene with me looking at her
feet,
toes and the fingers and her Adam's apple.
Right, you wrote in all the cuts for me thinking, I know how you're going to cut back and forth, but by then I was so much into a different style, actually just dissolves and got Jimmy Vaughn to do a great blues song over it. And it worked out perfectly. It really got in your head. Right.
But I love
how unthreatening yet threatening you are in that scene.
But I love the fact that you were shooting a couple of scenes like the way you imagined I would do them, and I was writing a couple of scenes the way I was imagining you.
Of how I would do it. Yeah,
which is that's actually kind of cool because like you don't normally get a chance to wear somebody else who you respect skin in that way.
Right, you got to go double on it, double up on everything, and think, well, this is something he would do, this is something I would do, and let's help each other out to make a joint effort.
Now, tell the story about how like you didn't realize quite how suspenseful this scene was.
That's why I wanted to add the action scene because I just didn't feel this was strong enough. When you read it, just reading it, not being in your head yet, because I wasn't directing it yet. I was just reading it. This scene didn't seem as suspenseful as you always said it was. This you kept describing it as being. This is a scene where everyone should be sweating in the audience, everyone wringing their hands, wondering what's going to happen next. And I kept thinking, I didn't see it that way enough to make it that. I mean, I was going to have to make it that way because that's the way you saw it written. Right. I had to make sure it delivered that way, and I didn't think it was strong enough in that way, or just didn't see until I started editing it together. Actually, and as I was editing, I was like biting my fingernails. Going, wow, this is really cool. This is really building up, and here comes the border guard. And it just on paper it didn't until you see Harvey and the kid and you guys in the bathroom and the border guard walking up. I mean, you visualize this stuff when you're writing it, which is why you saw it.
Right.
But it's not the same when you're reading it.
But I love the story. You just like building it in the cuts. You go, oh my god, hey, this is suspense. This really grabs the audience.
I couldn't wait to get to the end of the scene because I edited
at night.
But
also, you edit the scene so wonderfully because like you manage to like in that movie Transfers. You create a long second. You know what I mean? You stretch out.
Well, that scene with you guys talking,
and it doesn't seem unrealistic. Right. But it's like it takes there's like. For the border guard to like walk from the front of the whatever, there's like 4 different cuts with dialogue in there, but it all works stretching out
it out.
The suspense.
I did break this up a little bit more. This guy with you guys talking in here happened more in 2 cuts rather than in the 4 or 5 that I used, just because I just enjoyed seeing it split up even more and more. But basically, this is everything that you wrote.
Yes, you did. You said. As long as I don't act like a fucking nut.
Yeah, I edit at night, and I edited this all in one night, this whole scene, because I didn't plan to, but I just, the sun was already coming up, and I wanted to see it, I wanted to see how it was going to end, because I was having so much fun cutting it, and it was just really nailed. I just laid some temp music under it, and it was just a great scene to cut together.
One of the things that makes it work so good, literally to me, and this sounds like a silly thing to say, but it's the truth. Is like the border guards and the dogs. They look like real border guards.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Harvey's reaction there.
Yeah, that one right there. Like he really screwed up. That was another reason it was so hard to feel the suspense that Cheech and Harvey aren't even together.
Yeah.
We have to shoot Cheech on a completely different day because of his mustache shape.
Right.
So all this stuff is shot without Harvey being there because Harvey had to go shoot another movie. This interior is shot on a stage somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're on like 3 or 4 different locations
right, exactly.
shooting this scene. mean,
Hundreds of
so
miles.
it wasn't until we're editing. Oh, that was such a great hit, you guys. I think we did that in 3 takes, and that was the one. It's just really cool. This is another kind of Quentin shot where it's just a 3-shot.
Right.
There's no quick cuts, even though when you read it at first, it seems like something that's real cutting back and
Right.
forth, but it was just all in one take. And no, it wasn't until editing that this stuff really comes together because it's so spread out.
I think more than any other scene, this was a scene that was affected by actors' schedules and stuff. So it's
Right.
like, you know, this little bit of it was shot on this day, and then this little tiny
Right.
piece of it was shot on that day.
Yeah, like Cheech and isn't even there for this day. We shot that on the set, and back and forth. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, works pretty good.
Yeah.
We had to actually cut a hole out of the shower to stick you in there because there's no way you guys could physically fit in there.
Right.
Your ass is like hanging out in the hallway.
Right, exactly.
But it works good enough for the scene. So, no one ever gets in those shots. No one knows how small those things really are. That's all our trucks back there. We just didn't want. I just want to spend the time moving the trucks, and we're just doing a dry run. I just said, just start rolling the camera. All the crew's hanging out there waving at the camera, and we're filming that. And you can't tell. It was just quick cutaway. We were just shooting so quickly. It was so hot when we're filming. What was it? 130 degrees
Oh,
out there.
Jesus Christ.
It was just painful. So we just said, let's just shoot and get out of here, and it works fine. This stuff's great.
You guys are all in my cool book. Now, Scotty, I want you to help me with Richie. We're going to lay him down on the couch over there. Jacob, you're going to keep
The
driving.
gallo.
I don't know
It's
how
the
you-
guayo. It's this,
The way you wrote a lot of the spellings that you put in here, I preserved those and did the pronunciation for your spellings. Like Santanico Pandemonium should probably be Santanica Pandemonium, but it's okay. I just whatever your memory of it was, I let it go and we pronounced it that way. Made our own words.
yeah, it was the guy.
I liked your Spanish words.
Yeah, I like
you
my-
made up your own.
I love my
Because you
Spanish
did that
words.
even in Desperado. You said punta instead of puta, which meant you called somebody a dot at the end of a sentence rather than whore.
Point, a point.
So I just left all that stuff in. That was Juliet Lewis, of course, that we saw back there. I wanted to talk a little about Juliet,
Yes.
how she got involved in this picture, because it was different from everyone else. Everyone got involved in a different way.
Right.
I remember went over to your house and we were listening to music and thinking about the movie, and then you said, I got a call from
Juliet
Juliet
Lewis.
Yeah.
Well, she's a friend of mine, and out of the blue, she was like, she'd like quit doing movies for like a little bit, about 6 months, was taking a
That's right.
long deserved break, and she was in Florida, and she was just chilling, and then so she calls me up, and we're just bullshitting, and she goes, Quentin, they sent me the script that you wrote, and it's called From Dusk Till Dawn, and then like she's like talking about the character of Kate, and she's like interested in playing it. She's like, I'm into it, man. I think this could be a really cool character. I just saw Mariachi, and I'm really like into the idea of working with Robert, and I was shocked because like I never thought the character of Kate was that good, and I was right in the process. I mean, she read
That
the
part
old
it was,
script.
and it
She-
was really small
Yeah.
at that time too. That was the old script.
yeah,
right.
she read the old script, and she's old through the movie, but like she doesn't really do that much. And so I was like so inspired by the fact that oh my god, we might get one of the best young actresses of her generation, to play this character. So I felt completely inspired to try to make the character somewhat worthy, all right, of her as an actress.
Right.
And it really affected, in a weird way, except for myself more than anybody else, it affected my rewrite.
Right.
The fact that like I started thinking about Juliet. The whole pussy eating scene came from that because
Right.
how great she would do with that,
Right.
and our whole like chemistry together and
Right.
everything started
Making
to
you
bounce.
guys more a unit there.
And it's like and so it's like it was terrific. And she's still too good an actress too. Like she's still slumming.
Definitely just hanging out.
Me and George were like always feeling like
Well, here we are at the Titty
Oh,
Twister,
yeah.
man. Look at that. I forgot about that shot. That was great. I mean, this is just the way it's described in the script. They come into the gates of hell, practically.
yeah, it's just like the apocalypse now. Them coming up. And watch out, because those goddamn monkeys back.
It's so fun building just like a whole. I think the idea I had for this was to make, because in the script it's just a Mexican bar. Which you've ever been to a Mexican bar, there's not much going on there. The girls are dancing to like transistor radios, and it's pretty pathetic actually. And I thought, let's make. This is a song by ZZ Top. For instance, they've been to all these bars in Mexico. They said we've been to all of them. I said, well, you've never been to this one. And they saw this one. They go, man, where is that one? We want to go. That
That's
looks
a
pretty
good idea for a stage
That
show.
sounds like a stage show idea for us there. And because this thing was, let's make this if I owned a bar in Mexico, what would I make it like? So I
Right.
built it on I decided to get more into the Mayan and Aztec vampire culture that was never been in movies really.
Right.
And I read up a lot of it and found out that they would seduce people with snakes and do all these kind of rituals. So we decided to turn it into a temple, which you thought was kind of an interesting idea when I mentioned it to you. That's kind of cool. There's a temple that someone actually had the idea. Hey, let's turn it into a titty bar to attract.
Right, exactly. Let's build a titty bar around our temple to better eat people in. All right, that's a good idea.
That's kind of the idea. That's why it looks so strange.
You know, it's one of my favorite like remarks I read in a review when they're talking about like the vastness of the titty twister. They were saying in the Tarantino Mall, this goes right next to Jackrabbit Slims.
Exactly. This turns into something that we talked about for a long time about making a franchise of.
I
mean, titty twisters all across America.
I cannot tell you how many people have said, you know, so are you going to start Jackrabbit Slims as a real restaurant and like do a chain of them like Planet Hollywood and everything? And I'd say like, you know, I don't quite know how much I like the idea of Jackrabbit Slims. There's sort of like some irony about it. It's kind of a critique of those places. But I could almost be interested in doing a chain of titty twisters exactly the way they are here.
Because this place is just wonderful, man. It's like a dream. I remember when we have you'll see little guy Ernie, our little kid here, going in and reacting to this place for the first time. He's never been to a bar because he's like 15 or something.
Right.
And we told his mom, "Don't worry, this is as good as it'll ever get."
Right, exactly.
He'll never go to a bar again because they won't be able to compare to this one. This one's the king of all bars.
That in the background behind George's she's gone.
She's gone.
She's gone.
Blink. You blinked, you missed her.
A blink and you missed her. It was it's my assistant, Vicky Lukai, in motorcycle garb, as a biker slut.
I love how you kicked the hell out of Cheech there. He was pissed because you were really kicking him. You were really in character. He's like, man, he does that one more time, I'm going to beat his ass. I was like, oh, man, we put a pad on you. He goes, yeah, he's not kicking the pad. He's kicking my gun. And that was the last take. And you just went wild. You just started saying shit. I don't know what you were saying there, but that wasn't scripted and it wasn't any other take, and I used it just for that. I did something like you did in Jackrabbit Slims. I didn't realize that you had done that until you told me about it, that you just started off, you know, you built this whole place. You thought, you know, I'm going to get it out of the way. The first shot will be following John Travolta around the whole Jackrabbit Slim just to show off the work of the production crew and then get into the store. So we did like a 360, which is a lighting nightmare, of course, for my DP memo, because I wanted 360 of the whole place to get it over with, see the whole layout, and then we can go into the.
Well, you see, what happens, what people don't realize is when you have like great production designers and set decorators, that when they create like a place like Jackrabbit Slims or like the Titty Twister, that's like a separate world unto itself. Right. All right, it's very intimidating as a director because you look around like, oh my God, how am I going to capture this? Because you're there, you're standing amongst it, and like you seem dwarfed by it. There's no way my camera will capture the gloriousness of this.
People always talk about the big screen, but the big screen is actually such a limited view of the surrounding. I mean, when you walk on a big set like this, it's absolutely amazing, but you can rarely ever capture.
You put your frame up and it all seems to go away.
It goes away completely. It's like cupping your hand over your eye and looking through a peephole is what you're doing with the camera.
You know what kills you more than anything is those stupid viewfinder things that you get, man. You know, you'd be on the most glorious set in the world and you look through it and it all like, it's like magic. It disappears, you know, and now all of a sudden it looks like
that's all I get to see
a TV movie. I know.
I'm going to count to 3.
But the thing is, what can happen oftentimes is you're so in awe of the set you're around, especially when you have an awe-inspiring set, all right, that you spend too much time trying to sell the set and capture it. And then in like doing a scene like that, the way you did it,
doing the big 360 and get everybody an eyeful and then get into the story.
Yeah, just like because if it's about the titty twister, then it ain't about anything.
Right.
It's got to be about what's going on with the people.
This bar is for truck drivers?
These are my staple guys I use in Desperados. Tito Lariva and his band, the Tarantulas, playing the music because I really wanted to make this whole bar just have nothing but live music coming out of it. So we created a couple of songs, and here's Danny Trejo, who's a knife guy, and Desperado. I wanted to really populate with some great Mexican, Latin actors in here because in the script, some of the I think the lead actress, the lead vampire that Salma plays was called Blonde Death. There wasn't real Mexican attitude in those characters. Right. It was written kind of just.
Razor Charlie and Big Emilio were,
but I really wanted to cast it that way also, really showcase them and stuff. So this was really fun to do.
Well, what's kind of cool is just like right when we get to the bar, like all these like stock, all the rep company that you work with, all right, boom, show up,
Hear people cheer when they see Danny Trejo.
You are totally in Robert Rodriguez world, all right. Once you walk into the bar, because like his entire stock company is like
they're all running the whole place. Yeah.
because you have a stock company now that's like identifiable
Exactly.
as like
Just
John
trying to-
Ford had one,
Right,
and Howard
right.
Hawks. And,
Add into the soup every movie, try and get more.
it's like going to see a Brian De Palma movie and Dennis Franz shows up. It's like Danny Trejo is your Dennis Franz.
Oh man, we gotta talk about some of these guys on the screen. This is Tom Savini, of course. There's Greg Nicotero, who's one of KNB,
Right.
the N and KNB, who did the special effects. He's just the coolest guy. I think once you said that if you had time to hang out with him, he'd probably be your best friend.
Right, exactly.
Because Greg's just the coolest.
Oh, he's
man.
the
He's
great-
the biggest movie fan, model freak.
And he's
just
I've
loves everything.
spent I've had Christmas dinner at his house. He's like he's a great fella.
And then Tom Savini, of course, from that same school. He's just like a real cool, an icon of horror films, really. And just putting him in the movie, because we enjoyed him as an actor. I
Right.
think it was your idea to cast. You wrote him down on one of your lists, and I thought, man, Tom Savini, of course, what a great freaking
But he's
idea.
so great in
Just
Dawn of the
as an
Dead
Dawn
and
of the
Knight
Dead.
Rider.
Knight Rider, yeah.
He's great in Knight Rider.
He's really great. So this was something that we really wanted to bring him in, not for his people think he did the makeup. He didn't do the makeup, actually.
No,
It
yeah.
was people that used to work for him who became K&B. And he just came in as an actor and just as someone who would get to come do cool stuff that I said, we have to add. It's not in the script yet. We didn't realize we'd cast someone like you. This movie was written for,
Right.
no-name actors for a real low budget.
Right.
Now we've got suddenly Fred Williamson and Tom Savini in there. We had to come up with things for you guys to do.
Well, we had to explain. It was funny because we're having to explain to Miramax, the company that makes the movie, about like how big Tom Savini is. All right, like you don't quite realize this, but in the horror lexicon, all right, Tom Savini is like more famous and more worshipped than me and Robert and George and Harvey and all of us put together. All right, they would, a horror convention would stomp us to death to get Tom Savini's autograph.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it was really cool putting him in and featuring him, and with that I got to feature him using the crotch gun. That's something that left over from Desperado that I really wanted to put in here and give it to Tom, because he was Sex Machine, which is a great colorful name you gave some of these characters. Sex Machine, Frost, and I really wanted these guys to come alive. It was just great. It was just great that we got guys like Fred Williamson and Tom Savini to really round out this new wave of characters coming into the movie for the second half.
Now here's a scene where I think I made a big mistake in writing it. In one regards, but it's kind of funny when you look at it. This is Fred Williamson, by the way. We'll talk more about him later. This chick was very sexy to me. Of all the dancers
She
in
really
the
was
Titty
very
Twister,
beautiful.
aside from Santanico Pandemonium, that one was my favorite.
Yeah, I tried to feature her a little bit.
She was
really
totally.
special.
Did you see her in
Michelle,
the Santanico Pandemonium dance when
Yeah,
she's like
doing
dancing in the
the
back?
thing.
Did you realize she was doing that
No,
on that
of
day?
course not. I had so much going on, I didn't realize.
Oh
that.
man, I didn't even realize it either. I'm looking, and it looks great.
Yeah, it does.
It looks good. It's not like somebody just trying to in the background. It looks great.
Yeah, you liked her a lot.
But this thing is in this scene, and it's one thing from being the writer and then playing the character. All right, I was like so Richie by the time that we were doing this.
Right.
I didn't write that much dialogue for Richie in this scene.
Right, at all, really.
And then I get there, and I'm like, this is false. Richie would be saying something at this point.
Right.
He just wouldn't be sitting there and letting Jacob and Seth do all the talking. He would be like, Seth is out of control, and Richie would start stepping in.
Right.
But I didn't want to rewrite the whole fucking scene on the moment. I mean, I'm realizing it as I'm doing here that I made a mistake as a writer, like an actor saying, "Hey, the scene's fucked up. It's not working." In a scene where, the actor shows up on the set and says, "Wait, it's not working for me."
Right,
Well,
exactly.
I'm doing that about my own dialogue, all right? But what I wrote, and there wasn't anything I could do about it other than rewrite the scene right at that moment, which I wasn't prepared to do. And so the thing is, okay, this is false, but if I just stand here and don't say anything,
Right.
the way Robert will cut it, I'll probably end up looking like a really cool character.
So I'll cut to you like you're the dog in this scene, but you'll be doing just do cool stuff, follow the rule, and you'll be in the scene. And now it looks like you're controlling him just with your eyes.
Right, I'm just like, I'm not going to say, okay.
You're just checking it out. If it gets out of hand,
I
you're gonna stand up.
I should be saying a whole lot more, but I'm not going to say anything, and I'll probably end up looking cool.
Which worked fine. It looks like you were just kicking back and and really wanting not to get too involved right at that point. Just if it got out of hand, you take care of it. But for the meantime, you were just enjoying the bar and hanging and kicking back. That was Danny Trejo doing his speech, which we just howled at. He did like 10 times for us. We just had so much fun listening to.
And the biggest mistake we did on this entire production is not putting Danny's speech on the CD. All right, am I right?
Exactly.
Oh,
I
the
needed
speech is
that whole
so
intro.
great.
Epitome of
Lowly dog.
bow your head.
Bow your head.
That is the coolest. This was a scene that we just kept adding to. I mean, one thing we didn't mention at all, the pussy speech that was before with Cheech, because we were talking about something else. We'll get back to that. But besides that, in the opening scene, which were the two scenes I was looking most forward to. The reason I made the movie were those two scenes. This movie has to be made, if nothing else, for these two scenes.
Right.
But what you end up enjoying also is the scene that you haven't created yet.
Yeah.
That we ended up doing as we were writing the script and getting ready to make the movie. We added this whole thing after doing some research about the vampire and the snakes, and we told Salma, and we cast Salma, you saw Desperado,
Yeah, right,
and changed Blonde Death to Santanico Pandemonium, which is a name that came from
a Mexican horror film. When I worked at video, I've never seen, by the way. I've heard it's pretty good. Rick Linklater's cinematographer loves the movie. He goes, "Oh, did you see Santanico Pandemonium?" And I go, "No, I've always wanted to." I worked at Video Archives, and we got like a poster for this Mexican horror film that was like so bloody and ridiculous that I've never forgot the name.
Right. It's called Santanico Pandemonium.
And I could never say it without saying Santanico Pandemonium.
Esta noche presentamos ustedes. So then you decided to change the name to Santanico Pandemonium, make it Salma, which was my idea all along. So I was glad you came up and asked me. So I was thinking, how do I tell Quinn I want to cast Salma as Blonde Death? And hey, I got an idea. Let's cast Salma Hayek as Santanico Pandemonium. So I was all into that. Gave her a big albino snake, which I thought would look great on her skin.
This is one of my favorite sequences in the movie. The way you just did this whole dance sequence. With
I just love musicals. I thought, wow, let's put a musical sequence to bridge the two movies together. So I got Tito to write, and that was the first song I produced with him. Was this song, which was more like a snake dance version of an old rock tune he could never quite get right to put on any of his albums. And then we choreographed this. Actually, it's not even choreographed to this music. We had other kind of world beat music.
Yeah, you had like a much faster
rhythm because I was shooting her all in slow motion to make her. Salma, people are always surprised when they see her, is not a very big girl. She's actually quite small. But I try to shoot her. That's why I'm always down on the ground shooting up at her to make her look really big.
Right.
And because I wanted her to be the queen of the vampires, and shot her in slow motion. So I had to use faster music for her to move to. So by the time it played in slow motion, it would sync up to this music and kind of sync. This is a moment that could only exist in cinema because it's the wrong kind of music. Right. You know, she's not. She didn't have any dance choreographed. It was just me and her coming up with moves.
Right.
The snake was doing its own thing, and the band was playing a different song.
Yeah. You're not seeing every third step as like it's a trip and a fall and a stumble and everything. Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna cut.
You know, because the weight of the snake was like actually pulled it to the ground several times. So this is a live show can never happen and look like this. Only it's a pure cinema moment, no dialogue. And I love how the whole whiskey going into your mouth thing. I mean, as soon as you changed it to Salma, suddenly you were sucking her toes. And like George said, this is the case of Quentin the writer taking care of Quentin the actor.
Oh, yeah.
Quentin gets to suck on her toes. George gets to fight a big hairy rat later on.
Hey, George, you became a movie star. I had to have like something to do. All
I know,
right?
and I
You
thought-
have all this dialogue. All right. You have
Give me
all
one
my
more.
great lines.
I check
all right?
out quickly. You know, you were selfless enough to check out quickly. You know, as we soon see. You know, give me at least a toe.
Yeah, I'll suck some of my ex-toes. You have all my great dialogue.
No, it
That's
was really cool.
That's a very even trade. Okay?
I didn't realize this until I first screened it for the first time that it actually worked really well that she went after you. And at first I was just thinking of it as Quentin taking care of the writer, writer taking care of the actor. But then as soon as she goes seeking you out, I mean, you are the one who's been doing these things to women. She seeks you out first in the dark room. It was really cool.
Oh yeah,
I really liked how that worked.
It has a great like subtextual feeling because I'm the one zeroing in on the females in the movie, and then narrowing my eyes to them with sinister intentions.
Right.
And then she does the exact same thing to me. I mean, literally, you almost have the shot when she looks at me almost might be one of those little Irish shots.
Right. No, man, I didn't see it because that was such new material. I was so used to the script being the old way. I didn't see it until it was already done and cut, and I was looking at it and going, oh my God, she's going right after Quentin. There's Cheech playing one of 3 roles in this thing. We'll get into that later. Oh, we hadn't had any action in a while, so we really went all balls out on this. We thought, all right, let's put it. You changed all of that. Originally, you just got shot in the shoulder, and then we started getting into it when we were writing and getting ready to make the movie. And you said, man, I want to get shot in the hand, then I'll get a knife in the hand, and then Razor won't just have Razor. That's Razor Charlie, by the way. He won't just have a razor. He'll have like a big knife. And I'll start stabbing him with his own knife, and then stick it back in the tape. We're really getting excited about just doing turning it back into an action movie just before it turns into a horror film.
Right, exactly.
And then you get the shot of the blood and her sniffing it, and that's all. Then it's all over from there. Now it turns horror.
And I love the two. It's like. It almost makes me miss the fact that we didn't see more Richie and Seth working as an action team.
Right.
Because they have 2 different personalities. Richie's wild and crazy and psychotic with that knife, where Seth is very methodical with the gun.
You know, I think that's really why I wanted to add another action scene in, but you guys went all balls out in both of those action scenes, even though they're brief.
Yeah.
They're not big Desperado action scenes, but they were strong enough on their own
Right.
to take care of that.
There's a wonderful teamwork between us.
Yeah.
It just begs you for more.
Right.
You-
So that's
you know
good.
what I mean?
Leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
That's why we kill you off quick. So let's make people miss you. I mean, you're right when they're getting interested in what you're all about, we'll get rid of you. So then here we go. Salma turns into a giant snake, and then off and running into the action, full blown. This is so cool. You're just screaming, "What the fuck are you?" I like this line. "What the fuck are you doing? Shoot her!" I try to keep all those lines. What the fuck are you doing? Shoot.
I love my fall there.
That's a great fall. You know, this is only 2 takes we did here. The first take, I think that was it. The second one, I just did again just as a safety because I love the first take. And we didn't really know what we were going to do yet. We just went ahead and just kept going, and that was your death scene right there.
It sounds so crazy. It might sound egotistical. I'm really proud of the way I fall. It looks like all the life just drained out of my body. I'm like a little rag doll. And it's so funny. I fall as I hit the ground. I go, "You fucking bitch." And I remember screening the movie in Austin, sitting next to Rick Linklater, and him just howling at my throwaway, "Fucking bitch."
She got me. The crotch gun in action. Now this is something that would make any producer freak out. When Quentin wrote this, all he wrote was, "All hell breaks loose." So I mean, that could be as big or as small as you can imagine. Everyone was worried about what that meant because it wasn't really detailed. It's like, well, how much hell breaks loose? Because we got a budget, extras, blood, stunts. And I said, man, that's all it says. All hell breaks loose. We got to figure out what that means. What does that mean? That means, like people getting their throats slashed. I mean, heads bouncing around, and it was really only like a page of description for this. So we knew it had to be a little bit longer. Somehow they had to clear out all the patrons, and a lot of the vampires had to get killed. And that's when we came up with stuff for Fred Williamson.
This cutting is so frenetic. It's almost like abstract cutting. You know what I
were
mean?
saying that. It was like wide shots cutting together. It was like really bizarre, almost experimental snuff-looking stuff.
It is, because like normally, I mean, you normally like have this like rhythm to your action cutting
Right.
that builds and everything, and that's almost like everything is supposed to be a sour note in a weird way.
Right.
Like the cuts aren't supposed to go together in this like fragmented kind of,
Real
almost like
erratic.
darting the camera around kind of.
It almost seemed like the more we could just disorient people in this
Yeah.
film, the better, which is why, and it seemed to be working that way from the beginning. I
Oh,
mean,
it worked
with the
fantastic.
trunk shot, with
Yeah.
with you going after the older woman, and then suddenly in here, I mean, everything is just not what you expect.
Well, it
Everything-
works. It works so wonderful. Now we're into separate set pieces
Right.
that cut together rhythmically. But that first big
That
explosion.
first thing is just the
Yeah.
explosion of wide shots and cut.
This is a
There's
great gag. This is just an absolutely great gag.
I just thought, I kept telling Fred, we're going to come up with stuff for you to do, I promise, because
Right.
we didn't expect your character to be played by someone like you, so it was never really written in for you to really do anything, except it was just suggested you should do something cool. We just got to figure out what that is. So I came up with a table gag for him to drop 4 girls down, something to get the people cheering in on Fred's side, to realize he's one of the main characters in the second half.
Exactly. And then all the people who know who he is are like,
Yeah.
"Hey, it's the hammer. You got to
hammer.
use
You
the
gotta use the
hammer." They're
hammer.
like,
Yeah.
they're
I had
waiting
a-
for him to take over the movie.
And then Tom, of course, is such an athletic, physical guy. He does all his own stunts and flips. And he said, well, I can flip off tables. Let me do more things. So we gave him some more. He seems to be the only one really enjoying being stuck in a room full of vampires.
Right, exactly.
This is what he's been waiting for. He just wants to cause some hell. Danny pulling late arms off. And this is
And
just
then here's
giant
Tom Savini's
plays.
opposite number, Danny Trejo.
Savini versus
I'm serious. They're like each other's opposite
exactly,
number.
Yeah. Danny, so that big tattoo lady. Oh man, that was just so much fun shooting this huge set piece. Just having a giant playground really with all these monsters, and K&B was just going nuts trying to keep up with every gag. We'd have to just keep rolling. We didn't know how long this was going to take. None of us had ever shot a big effects movie
Right.
before, so we just said we couldn't schedule it like any other movie. We just said, give us 4 weeks and we'll
Yeah.
just shoot
We'll
every
just
day,
be-
and
we'll
we don't
just
know
be-
where we'll be each day.
yeah.
We'll just get as much done as we can.
We'll be at the Titty Twister.
I remember this is one of the scenes that you were actually there on the set with, sitting. I was laying on the ground shooting up at her, and you were down there right next to me. And we're just like, looking up in awe, just watching her like dominate George. It was just really fun.
I always kind of like this speech. I was,
know.
it was kind of sexy.
You were like right there on the floor next to me. For some reason, you just appeared that day on Salma's Santanico Day. You like that speech a lot.
Well, remember when we were like,
Welcome.
we were doing this. That's a line that George added.
There's a line that George added that I actually took out because you asked me to take it out. I said, I didn't really care for that line. I said, no problem, let's take it out. And then, I don't think I ever told you. I ended up having to put it back in because suddenly they had all the trailers were built around that line, and that line wasn't in the movie anymore. That was their big catchphrase at the end of the trailer. And I was thinking, because this post-production was so accelerated that I had made that cut, really late. That was like the last cuts I did.
Right.
And then they showed me the rough trailers that they were going to put out, and it was based around that big ending line. I was like, shit, that ain't in the movie anymore. And I can't stand seeing movies that have trailers with a line. It's not even in the picture, so I had to go put it back in.
Well, actually, it works. The thing was, the funniest line, though, that George ever said at the end of that is, at the script reading, when she gets to reading that speech, she gets, she's going to do all this and do that and do the other, and then at the end you go, okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. That doesn't sound so bad.
Sounds good to me.
So that's what his line was about, was to help that. Like, no, that sounds really great, but I already had a one.
This is one of my favorite things in the movie, too. Now, you were talking about like a director, like, getting everything out of the sentence that you wrote, all right? I write in there that Jacob and Seth beat with sticks on Big Emilio like LAPD's finest.
Right,
And that's exactly what you shot.
Your stuff was very descriptive.
I got it across.
You got it across.
And you went to town with it.
Well, I would start, it didn't seem, if you read your script.
It's the most brutal thing in the movie is them beating him with that
the hell
stick.
out of Big Ernie. This was something I had I think Fred just was supposed to do a karate chop against him, which really hurts because Fred showed me. So look, you run against me and I run against you. It didn't seem powerful enough though. Visually, if you do it with Fred, it really does hurt. He karate chopped me in the stomach, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, that would take him down. But go ahead and rip his heart out.
Right.
So I had him rip his heart out, and then the K&B, Greg Nicotero, come over and says, he wouldn't be dead though. The heart would still be there. So I was like, well, let's stick it with a pencil.
Well, you changed the sequence because I had originally I had that in a different set piece with a bat.
Exactly.
And it was the heart was ripped out, and it's like a little bat heart, and you stab it with a pencil.
Right.
But it works much better with Big Emilio.
Yeah, we ended up doing it there with a heart, Big Emilio, and the big stand. I love the big, Wild Bunch, Magnificent Seven standoff these guys gave. And
now let's talk a little bit about the green blood. All right. The thing is, all right, we had blood gushing all throughout this script,
right.
like ridiculously. All right, and
we were thinking mostly about let's not shoot a bunch of stuff that's going to end up getting cut out. Let's think about how we can preserve.
I mean, as it is, all right, we figured we had a Mount Everest as far as a ratings battle to begin with. All right, what can we do to make things a little easier for us? All right, and then. I have to say, I'll take credit for it. It was my idea.
Definitely.
To do the to make
Green
the
blood,
vampire
red
blood green. All right, because hey, it's vampires. They don't exist. You can watch because literally. The MPAA, it's not so much that they don't like blood, they don't like the color red. I mean, it's that simple.
Right.
Green blood, you can drown in a river of green blood as far as they're concerned.
That would just hit home the fact that these aren't humans and stuff. And we could get away with more carnage. And there's already so much red in the set. All the lights were red. And, and I really wanted to drench it red. I mean, look at you. I like this little body piece on top of you.
I know. How many mainstream movies has a scene where like, before I have mourning my dead brother, let me take this torso and get it off of him.
Everyone thought we'd have so much trouble with the MPA because if you walked around the set, I mean, literally all around you guys, there's body parts, there's arms
one of the producers
and legs.
was just like, Robert, Jesus Christ,
I had to tell
we're going to have an unreleasable movie.
So man, back off. Like the exact thing we're talking about, how your lens sees so little compared to how much you see on the set. I mean, you walk on that set and you're tripping over heads and arms, and it just looks like there's no way we're going to get this past. But that's not what the audience is seeing. I mean, most of the shots very contained.
But it's kind of funny because you do have big dialogue scenes that can't be cut with a torso in the background or a head on a table over somebody's shoulder. If you
just go and frame by frame through, you see things like people's half-eaten bodies just laying around in every shot.
He just shot of a guy picking up a pool cue. There's like a mangled head next to it.
But you have to look for it so carefully. The MPA wouldn't notice because they just watch it in one sitting. They don't go frame by frame through this stuff. They turned out fine.
They were wonderful in this movie. I mean,
they got the sense of humor and they realized that that's how we got away with it. Otherwise, it would have to be an unrated film.
Everybody who says that they don't, I've never had a problem with them. Everyone who says that they don't get your film, they got ours. We couldn't ask for a better audience. They got our film. But now the thing is, actually, I've always liked
I love that shot because
why don't you explain that?
That was something that. What were we doing? I think we were just testing the lenses, and I said, "Well, go ahead and give me a shot like that. Let's just shoot you real quickly with those lenses. Those lenses weren't working."
Well, it was the thing is, I was just. This scene was always kind of a really important scene for me, and I was like, well, I'd like to do one thing where I just don't have this big makeup prosthetic thing on me. So
put the eyes and the teeth in.
Right.
And
that's even fucking creepier.
Yeah, it's creepy. Just seeing those weird eyes. Those were great contacts you had that didn't fit, and we had to trash them. And and I really wish we could have made them work, but they couldn't. So we just got that shot of you and the Japanese poster, which I want to include in this Laserdisc package. Hopefully,
it's the greatest.
It's so cool because it utilizes that shot from the movie actually, and makes, of course, you the centerpiece of the poster, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's like George,
really,
Juliet.
Really cool.
Harvey's not even on the poster. They're in the background. Harvey's not even on the poster.
I want to try and get that poster and put it on the inside of the Laserdisc because it's such an amazing poster and it uses that shot.
Yeah, right the middle.
Right down the middle.
The fold of the Laserdisc should be the middle of the
that.
thing. Yeah. It's like and like they pushed me so much. And the guy go, hey, I'm not going to direct anymore. I'll just go to Japan. I'm a movie star there. Apparently.
Go to Japan, man.
So I'm
going
to go to Japan and be a movie star. You know, I'll be the Franco Nero of Japan. I'll be the Lee Van Cleef of Japan. You know, what Lee Van Cleef is to Italy, I'll be to Japan.
That's funny.
Like Woody Strode, just American expedite.
So
bullshit.
This stuff was really funny. We had to shoot so out of sequence. Just George's like, we have to do this scene now. He hadn't even killed you yet, and he's already doing this scene. We shot everything backwards. This is the first stuff we shot was all the bar stuff. So everyone had to just like work backwards, and it was really cool to see everyone get their characters in mind beforehand and then do it that way. That's always tough.
I don't know. The wrong line rings in my head. But I'm like looking at Harvey, and all I can hear him saying is that scene earlier. Don't be a fool.
Don't be a fool. That was our saying around. Oh man, I wanted to talk just briefly, just to get it out, because just for methodology and keeping the stuff in track, just knowing going back how we got the script even going.
Oh man.
I think I read this.
This is one of my favorite things in the movie. Is just this
the bat shot and all this.
And then it's like it plays so well. It was. Let me just say one thing here, as on a you know. This is no joke. This movie literally has one of my favorite mixes I've ever heard in a movie in my life. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just saying from as a viewer watching it. And it was so funny. We couldn't wait to like see the movie and have it like yell and scream with the audience and stuff,
right.
And it'll be so great. Well, the film opened in Los Angeles at the Cinerama Dome, which has a wonderful curved screen and a wonderful like sound system. But almost in a weird way, the sound system is too good and the mix is too good to get the kind of response that we wanted from the audience of everyone yelling and screaming and laughing and everything, because the mix is so good and the sound system was so great in that theater, it puts you in the bar.
Right.
You know, you're not an audience with infectious laughter. You're in the fucking bar. And that scene builds with the bats and everything like that. Like people think there's rats in the walls. You know, it's oh.
And there's such great digital systems now that we got Miramax to use for the first time. Stuff that I used even on Desperado, which was a low budget movie, but we got to use the SDDS 8-track surround system, and this just begged for it because the theater is shaped very much like this bar is. I mean, this is the Cinerama Dome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, let's put the Cinerama Dome, which is what I was mixing for.
Right.
Let's put that theater inside the bar and put the sound all over the room the way it is in this environment. And it was a great time mixing. I was one of the mixers on the movie. I was the music mixer, but I really enjoyed doing the sound effects and really placing things around the room.
Well, it's kind of cool because on one hand, you see it in a high-tech theater, and then you have this one experience. Now, I've seen it in just like regular neighborhood theaters with the normal neighborhood theater sound. All right, you know, and maybe not even SR. I mean, like local, you know, like
the OBA
grind theaters, you know,
right.
And there. It plays the other way we want it,
right?
Where it's just like, you know, it's like the infectious laughter, the infectious like hooting and hollering and carousing,
right?
So it like you have two different screenings depending on what theater you see it at,
right?
Now, as far as like screening it on video and Laserdisc, you watch it by yourself. It's good. It's also good to like get together and watch it with a bunch of beer and a bunch of friends.
That's what we thought of it as we were making it.
Yeah, 12 o'clock at night, you know.
I think that's why we wanted it. Oh, Juliet's just great in this.
Oh, she's fantastic.
I added this scene for her because I was still, even though you added some extra things in the script, I still felt like I'd go to movie hell again for not putting more Juliet stuff.
Right.
People would think she was on the cutting room floor if she didn't have more to do, but which isn't true. There just wasn't a lot there for her to do, so I gave her that little extra beat.
This is like little, I mean, the way they stake vampires in here just seems so much more violent than the way I've ever seen it done in Hammer movies and everything. You know, I mean, it seems so much worse than like hitting them with like a little mallet. You know, just the way Tom Savini's just pushing it through and twisting it. He's like stabbing it and then doing a twist. What does the twist do?
It's like an extra little. It's like when you're making, when you're grinding spices. You kind of like beat it down and grind it. It's like a beat and grind.
I mean. It's like, we every vampire movie, and this talks about it right here. Right. Every vampire movie kind of creates its own little like mythology,
right?
Like for the vampires, and and it becomes kind of part of the collective, and these you reject, and these ones you keep for like somebody else doing a vampire movie. And one of the things that we added to the vampire lore here that I think is kind of cool, might be neat to be carried on, is the fact that their bodies are soft.
Yeah, nice and squishy, like what's his name? Tom says right now.
Mushy.
They're mushy. You can push things right through them. You can
push it right through.
You can take their head off. You know?
Human bodies, one tough machine, you're gonna be a strong son of a bitch.
This is a fun scene. I like the scene. Really is another one that throws. Once you added that real serious horror element at the beginning with the woman hostage, it made the tone even more jumpy, which was kind of cool. That's what I really liked about it, is that when you get to a scene like this, suddenly you're laughing again at your dialogue and at the jokes, and the tone is just all over the place. Then people start dying. It goes from being from fun to serious and it really screws in your head. That's what I really enjoyed about the whole tone of the picture.
Okay, then who cares?
Well, how we got this thing, I think I read this script in '93. You showed it to me, and because I was talking about Mexico, I was about to do Desperado, and I was talking about Mexican movies, and you were saying, "Man, I wrote a script about Mexico. It was a horror script," and you gave it to me to read, and I really fell in love with it. But someone else owned it at the time, I think. And it wasn't until after we did Desperado in 4 rooms that this came back around, and Pulp had just hit.
Well, it's so funny because
Pulp had just hit at that time.
I have had I think easily 9 people have taken credit for coming up with you, all right, as the director. Robert Rodriguez should direct this, all right. Maybe there's a 12 out there or something.
Right.
I go, well, that's really funny because 2.5 years ago, I remember giving Robert the script to read just for enjoyment. And
you actually tried to get it back from me.
Yeah.
You went the next day. I mean, you really seemed excited that I would do it, because this is something that made me realize that when you write something, even if you wrote it for someone else like you did, this you wrote for $1,500 for someone else to make. This was a money thing for you. You got 2 weeks' work. You really were proud of the work that you did.
Oh, yeah.
And you wanted to see the movie get made.
Yeah,
you wanted to see this stuff get up on the screen. So you really tried to get it back for me to make.
It's funny because I thought it was never going to get made, and in a way, part of me was happy about that, because of all the scripts I've written, it's like I really like it, but if any of my scripts could be done bad, this is the one.
Right. It was very difficult material. I mean, it was very
This is the one that someone could completely fail on.
Right.
And then over the years, because I wrote it easily 5 years ago, and over the years I would take it out and look at it. God, this was my drive-in movie. This was my exploitation film. This was fun. This is a really good one. I don't really want to spend all the time it would take for me to do it.
Right.
But God, I really like it, and I wish I could. But nobody was a perfect fit. But when you said you liked it, it was and had the passion.
Right.
For it, it was Robert is the perfect person to do it.
I'll go run with it. Make it a big Mexican, Spanish, English action.
That was before Pulp Fiction. That was in
you were just finished
pre-production.
Writing. I had finished writing. We're writing on the same lot.
On the Columbia lot. And so then when Gianni Nannari and Mayor Tepper had just within weeks, when I was at the Venice Film Festival after Pulp opened, starting my European tour advertising Pulp, within that couple of weeks they had gotten the rights to the script.
Right.
And they said, look, how can we make you involved? And I said, if you offer to Robert Rodriguez to direct it and he says yes, all right, I'll be involved. Right. Then they started talking to you.
Yeah, I started getting calls on the Desperado set.
Yeah.
Even that early.
They started talking to you, but it was nothing was secure or anything. It was just you guys were agreeing to talk and pontificate about the idea of possibly doing it. Right. And it was while we were doing 4 rooms, all right, where I just located myself in the office of the set while you were shooting your story.
Right.
Because my story came out right after yours.
After mine, yeah.
And so you'd shoot, then you'd come back in my office and we'd bullshit, and we were just having such a good time. Because me and Robert like hanging out, but life here is so busy and everything that it's kind of cool to work together because it gives us an excuse
to hang out.
To hang out every day.
You know, I think that you're one of the best friends I have here in LA, but I've only been over to your house maybe 6 times.
Actually, you've been over my house you've been over my house recently quite a bit.
Because we've had watching movies. But before that, I've been over very few times. I mean, that doesn't constitute best friends back in the old school. I mean,
exactly.
Best friends hung out every day. But that's just how hard it is to get together.
That's just how it is.
So if you want to hang out, you got to make a movie together.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, you won't see each other.
If we want to see each other every day, you got to work together.
I want to mention this scene here. I tried to come up with something a way for Tom Savini to change that would be interesting, because I knew it would be hard to cut away from Fred Williamson giving that speech. We said it better be worth cutting away from, because Fred was just so hilarious. It gets to one of the biggest laughs in the movie, I think, when he breaks out with his nom speech.
Well, you were saying that like the very first time he was like giving it, at the very first screening you saw like some 16-year-old kids were sitting in front of you like exactly the audience we made it for, and when Fred starts his speech they turn to like, non-flashback.
Yeah, before he even said nom, they were like, they knew it was a non-flashback. They're like, all right. So I thought, man, let's come up with some funky computery and just interesting things for Tom to kind of run with here so that we have something to cut back to. But yeah, that's what happened with Dusk. You said, this is the time now to make this movie.
Right.
Everyone's excited about Pulp. We can do anything at this point. This movie's going to be so difficult to make unless we do it right now.
We can do like almost an Italian like spaghetti zombie film, Cannibal Holocaust, with an $18 million budget.
Because when you're hot, you're hot, and they'll give it to you.
I will be able to make it exactly the way it should be made, and if only the Fangoria crowd sees it, well, fine. That's okay.
Because we just want to see, and there was even a point when we realized what a big deal Pulp was becoming that we thought, well, should we just rewrite? You mean you were going to get paid to rewrite the script anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
We thought, should we rewrite it and really fix it and make it, a really, what kind of horror film should we even make? Mm-hmm. And we started thinking about all the things we could do because we had money now. We could do anything. Yeah. We didn't have to make the script anymore even. We could change it completely.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do that. We thought about it. But we really were attracted to this to make it the way it was. I mean, it's rough, it's scrappy. Yeah. And it's really tough to get made without us with the position we have now.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, if we don't make that movie, then we still won't have this movie made.
Well, it's so funny because it's like I mean, it is a total drive-in exploitation film. But the thing is, it's very pure in its center. And I realized, actually, as wild and crazy as the film is, I realized how good the structure of it was. Every time I tried to change it, I was in deep trouble.
Right.
I didn't realize how good the structure was I wrote a long time ago. You hear me?
Yeah, I remember everything became a math problem on how to solve it and try to add something.
Every time I tried to deviate from what I had done before, I'd realize that, God, what I did before does kind of work. On its own basis.
I remember when we were acting this scene out in your apartment, thinking we need a big shot of Fred just turning into a monster with all these bats coming behind him. I don't know how.
I love this shot. It's like he's a vampire all of like 2 seconds, and already he's the king of the vampires.
He's commanding the bats where to
go. Get them. Find the human.
I was a Nam, man. You guys listen to me. No, so we decided just to do it the way it was, and we ended up changing practically nothing.
Right, exactly.
We said, there's no point in making a different movie. We wanted to make this movie. Now we can't, so let's just make this movie the way it was.
No classing it up.
Right.
And it was like, I was just getting ready to take the summer off, doing nothing.
I was going to take that year off too.
But you were getting ready to write your kids' film.
Yeah, I was going to write it, but I wasn't going to shoot till way at the end of the year. I was going to take the whole year off because I had just done, Desperado.
I remember that. It was one conversation. Do you remember? It was like we had a conversation in that office in 4 rooms talking about this, and it was like, well, are you going to do it?
Yeah, because if you do it, I'll do it. Because I'm not going to commit to this if you're not going to be there. Because then I'm stuck making a movie all by myself.
Right. Well, I'll do it if you do it. And it literally was like changing our life for what we had planned.
Right.
All right. And it was like, well, if we're going to do it, we got to do it right now. All right, we can't wait to do this. We'll lose interest. We got to bang it out.
I said let's commit to it now. I want to be shooting by April. It was December. No movie moves that quickly. We ended up not starting until June. But that was the idea. I said, guys, any longer than that, I'm just not going to make it because we're going to take the year off. I don't want to turn this into my life.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a summer movie that we're going to shoot. Bang it out.
We got to get with the same adrenaline, the same piss that we have for the film. Well, it was we talked to different actors about some of the lead roles and stuff, and they go, "Well, we'll be interested to do it. I'll be finished with Waterworld or whatever, and at this point, and we'll do it." No, we need to do it right now. Sorry, we didn't wait for anybody. Sorry, And then there was a thing of like, "Hey, George, he's got a hiatus." They need him even sooner.
Exactly.
That was a big plus for George. The fact that he actually needs to do it right now too.
Yeah. So everything had the speed factor. This whole thing with Harvey was really interesting because this is one of the reasons I wanted to do the script because you were starting to cannibalize this script. You took it wasn't getting made. And you thought, well, there's such good stuff in this script. I'm going to just start putting it in my own movie. So you took several things out of here. And, you see them, I left them in, like the trunk shot. But bigger things like the whole Ezekiel speech you have in Pulp was originally what Harvey was supposed to be saying, that whole point that we just saw with him walking through the vampires. Not many people know that. But that was him saying the Ezekiel speech to hold back the vampires. And you took it and put it in Pulp, so we had to get rid of that. Mm-hmm. And I just replaced it with just a visual side gag of him putting I think in the script it's two wooden stakes, then he makes a cross. I changed it to a shotgun and a bat, thinking I got to replace your dialogue with something. Might as well make it something big.
And it was great because it was like we kept like thinking about the idea of like finding another Bible passage, but it wasn't. It was perfect this way with just him doing it through like
the power of taking two weapons and making them some holy, and having to become a preacher again. And,
exactly.
And then when that didn't work, use the power of the shotgun to get the bats back.
I like his line. What's this stuff?
What's all this stuff?
Harvey is so great in this sequence because like
this was when you get to see Harvey.
Yeah, in a weird way, it's sort of like because like when he comes busting ass through that door and everything, he's been taking the back seat, letting George take it. Now it's like Jacob comes in, he like fucking takes over.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we gotta do. They're gonna become it's a little Santo reference. All right,
it's little Santo dolls there.
They're gonna come busting in. We're gonna have to hit him with everything, and like he's like Reservoir Dogs. He's totally taking charge.
Mr. White all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
And part of it also was his costume. He wanted that hat. He wanted the glasses. He wanted to hide behind the beard, and he lost the hat in that scene when he went behind the bar. Yeah, so just losing the hat made him lose like 10 years off him. It just made him look more energetic and youthful again. He gets to start dominating.
And he's got his
came up with
his game face on now.
Oh yeah, this was something that you had in the original script, which is
well, this was Bob Kurtzman's idea.
Oh, really? The guy who gave you the story. That's right. Bob Kurtzman was the guy who actually hired you from K&B to write the script for you. He gave you how much of an outline or a story did he give you?
He gave me like about like a 5-page outline. That, to tell you the truth, once you get into the Titty Twister, the story follows his outline very much.
Right.
It was like but it only had like about a page, if that, before they get to the Titty Twister.
See, this is a discussion I never had with you, so I wanted to keep everything that you put in because you don't get a Quentin script and then start taking shit out. I mean, something like that is a gift. I mean, you go ahead and just shoot it word for word. But I didn't know exactly what was yours, what was Bob's, so I just kept everything because you see everything being incorporated.
Right.
You see the jackhammer, you see the, I never even bothered to ask. So everything tries to fit in here as much as it could.
You had a more reverence for my script than I did. We'd be looking at it, just lose that shit. Just lose that.
I like when
stupid dialogue scene. Who gives a shit?
It's like I'll let you make those decisions. I don't start cutting dialogue lines of yours. When I got a script like this, that's the first last thing I want to do. I'll let you decide what goes. I love this scene. This was another one that just lapdog is saying.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's just about my favorite line reading in the whole movie. Is
another twist on the whole tone of the picture.
I won't be Jacob anymore. I'll be a lapdog of Satan.
This was we were having to shoot very quickly. We were getting behind, so I said, well, this is another big Quentin dialogue speed. I'll just do it in one long push in, which is really cool because it just lets them just go for it.
Well, it's like,
get it in one. There's George the dog.
Yeah, exactly.
we're cutting away to George. This is the day that George.
That is the perfect personification.
You see the little face
George
twitches he's giving.
Dog,
he's giving the good face twitches, and he even said, I'm the dog, right? And I said, yeah, you're the dog, so just make it look good. And Harvey and them, they're not even there when George is doing that. George is great. George doesn't need anything. He's not method. He's
Mr. All this TV
like
experience.
Antonio. He's just got the, let's just get it done, and I'll just impress you with how I can do it with nobody around.
You don't believe in suicide. It ain't suicide when you're already dead.
We're imitating his readings the whole time we're editing this thing. Let's kill some fucking man. I didn't realize any of this until we read it in our.
Oh, that was like a recurring joke.
Yeah, recurring joke until it was like, okay, let's drink hard. Okay, ramblers, let's get rambling. Okay, vampires, let's kill some fucking vampires. These guys just look badass walking down the hall. I just love seeing this troop of actors we got here. Just seeing them fighting these things.
Keeping a straight face as they're looking at these like
Wookiees.
ghouls.
We called them Wookiees. We had about 9 of those guys in rubber suits, and we had to make it look like there was 100 of them. But you can see like fake ones in the back, and some of them were just painted skin, wearing boxer shorts. I was trying so hard to frame it out, make it look like there was a big force. And these guys acted so well; they just made it look like they were up against the world, and they pull it off because we just didn't have the money to make a big slew of monsters. You see the same 2 over and over again.
I love that's cool.
Yeah, the flame in his eyes.
Well, I love the fact that it's a whole wild punchy.
Kill them all!
I love the fact that it's like, we kind of set up that they're vampires, but literally they seem a hell of a lot more like zombies
They're just
in a
zombies.
really like cruddy Italian zombie movie. You know, by the end, then they seem like any kind of vampires we've ever seen in any movie ever.
I think particularly at this point, one of the reason I didn't want to I almost had reservations about making the movie was because there were so many vampire movies planned to come out at the time, which actually never got shot. But at this time, there was a slew of them that were going to be coming out at the same time. And this to me wasn't really a vampire movie. We call them vampires just for the sake of calling them something. They're really just... So we affectionately called it our
vamps. We call them vamps, which is quite somewhat different in my mind. You know what I mean?
And in fact, whenever we would talk about the movie, we would just call it our zombie movie, actually. So I didn't mind them turning into more zombies and less vampires.
Well,
because
I love like that introduction that Clive Barker wrote to the published version of the script, which is so much better written than anything else in that book. All right, his introduction is so much better written than my script. I can't tell you.
It's a great introduction. He came over and he checked it out and in rough form, and he wrote an amazing opening for the book for that.
And he talks
the script of the book.
He talks about how they, this is none of this the revisionist interview with a vampire kind of vampires where they're melancholy and they're brooding over their endangered species status. They're just like horrible monsters. They're like rats.
Here's George.
Hence, here we go.
George gets to fight the hairy rat. This is a rat leftover from one of the early versions of the script, and Bob Kurtzman actually designed this mechanical rat. And I didn't know if we were going to use it. We were running out of time, and we'd have to add an extra day of shooting to get the rat sequence. And I said, all right, let's try out the rat. So they had to do a test for me and show me how the rat would look. And it looked really great. I mean, the full body shot like that is just really no computer graphics. It's all old school mechanical clay and making a monster out of rubber again. Yeah.
It's kind of neat because I always told Miramax look, you gotta if you want to read the real reviews that count on this movie, wait for a couple months after the movie's released and read the letter page in Fangoria. All right, and then 2 issues ago, from the point that we were doing this thing, all the letters came in and all the fans really loved the film.
How funny.
And then this issue, there's this big letter in Fangoria where this guy is saying he doesn't like all the morph effects.
Right,
I've seen too many morph effects.
I hate morph effects.
The rat sequence is the best sequence in the movie. That's old school,
People appreciate that because you got a couple of guys operating the thing, trying to make it look real, and you're wetting it down, and it's all just mechanical, built by hand.
And it's old, the Howling school, of how to do it. Yeah.
But it really is just sweat, balls and sweat, making that stuff. That whole thing with a shotgun through Fred Williamson was something I wanted to add to just give more action. I wanted Harvey just to be a badass, just do cool things and give him cool stuff to do before he checks out here.
And this is cool. This plays great. This whole
fun,
little Harvey changes.
Harvey changes, and Harvey was really getting into being a monster. When he saw the makeup that
he
Fred Williamson had,
looks like the fucking devil.
He said, "I want some horns." So he had horns coming out of his face. We don't want to give him the devil horns on top of his head, but he has horns protruding out of his face, and he was into the whole idea of getting makeup put on. He'd never done that before. He wanted the worst makeup of anybody.
I'm telling you, 100%. As proud as I've ever been on anything I've ever done, and as proud as anything I'll ever do, is the way we kill the people in this movie.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, all right, the fact that we killed the fact that the father bites the kid in the neck, all right, that took more balls than it took for Steven Spielberg to make Schindler's List, all right? Am I right? All right, in Hollywood movie terms, in mainstream movie terms. Look at this. This is great. This is
kid is getting munched.
I mean, they're not even trying to suck his blood. They're eating him alive. They're eating the child actor alive, all right? That you don't see that every day at the movies, all right? That doesn't happen in Camp Nowhere. That doesn't happen in Cable Guy. Nobody in Twister, they don't eat the child alive in Twister, all right?
Oh, man.
In Jaws, they don't even eat children, okay?
That's so funny. No, he didn't just get killed. He got mugged.
Worse than any of them. Worse than any of them. Please, Kate, kill me. They're eating me alive.
She's like, I don't know if I should.
What do you mean you don't know if you should?
What the fuck are you doing? Shoot me. Oh, that was just... I don't know if we'd get away with any of that. For some reason, the MPA must have thought it was funny, too. I did have to trim some frames of him blowing up. He blew up, and you saw too many arm and leg flying around. But
Still, as it is, the slow motion of the long stream of mucus blood.
here's me doing creeper cam to get some of these stuff. This is just, we had to shoot this scene really quickly. But George and George wanted to get slimed up. And
Right.
We really wanted him to be completely fucked up by the time he gets outside. And that stuff's just really sticky and nasty. But he loved it. He kept
man.
pouring more on him. So he didn't care about
Right.
continuity. And I'm like that too. Oh, continuity, schmontinuity.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just get you, doused.
This is great.
I love all these Wookiees. Just multiplying the amount of Wookiees that we had. There's like there's 4 or 5 of them in each shot.
Right.
The same 4 or 5. We just keep moving them around. And here comes Carlos, again played by...
Now, the way that Cheech ended up playing 3 roles in this wasn't like this master plan on our part. You had actually even cast another actor
We'd already
for the
cast
border
a border guard, and we were thinking about maybe Eric Estrada for
We were
Carlos
really into
here.
the idea of Eric Estrada as Carlos.
Yeah,
you know?
he's coming from TV, and George coming from TV. I'm the 2
Yeah.
old TV, now movie actors, facing off. We thought it'd be fun to hear his voice behind the door and think, well, that sounds like Eric Estrada. And then go on.
Exactly, and then there it is.
But it
He's
got blown
Carlos.
over.
He's the guy we've been going for.
But it got all blown to hell when we did our read-through.
Yeah,
When you're doing the rehearsal, we do a read-through with the whole cast there. Well, not the whole cast, just the main cast.
And just sitting around a table having a good time,
So there was only, 6 of us?
Yeah.
Harvey, Cheech, George, Juliet, you.
And Fred was there,
Ernie,
Tom.
Fred and Tom were there. Okay. And so when you'd come up to a character like Carlos who wasn't there, you would just hand a character off to different actors. So Cheech read for the border guard because there was no border guard actor there,
Right.
and for Carlos, and he would do them all in a different voice. And didn't really register till like the next day after thinking overnight that I came up with an idea, and you and Cheech came up with the idea that, man, he should play all 3 parts because he basically is the devil.
Well, we talked about it. We talked about it, like Cheech is such a good. That would be kind of neat if he played all 3 parts.
Right.
And then we brought it up to Cheech, and Cheech goes, I didn't want to say anything because I thought it would be like this, bragging asshole. But I was sure thinking how good that would be,
So that would really make it attractive for me to be. I'll do all 3.
But he was doing the Kevin Costner Tin Cup
Tin Cup
movie
movie,
right at this time.
Right.
And it was like we didn't know if we'd be able to get him for all 3. And
Right.
you need him to all 3, or he shouldn't, he shouldn't do 2.
Right.
He needs to do 3 because it's kind of cool that every time you see Cheech, he kind of whether one way or another, he gets them on another length
Right.
of their journey to hell.
Which is in our mind was El Rey, which
El
is something
Rey.
that was always in the script,
Yes.
and that you based on Jim Thompson's The
Yeah.
Getaway, the last chapter that no one ever films for some reason.
Right, which is like, you can make a whole movie on the last chapter. When I heard they were doing a remake of The Getaway, I was like, oh, great! Finally,
yeah.
they're going
Go to El Rey
They're going to
and
go
get
to El Rey, which is what the whole book's about. Because then you read the book, The Getaway, you read the whole book, and you're like, wow, this is one of the best crime books I've ever read. Then you read the last chapter when they get to where they're going. And that last chapter makes it one of the best books you've ever read. And then, the remake just remakes the old one, where they don't go to El Rey again. I go, well, what's the point? You know?
Right.
El Rey is this sort of like this hole in the wall, place where people on the run go to, but it's actually, it's even worse than hell. It's worse than any place you could be, coming from.
Right.
And it's existence.
Right.
Because once you're there, you're there.
Right, you can't leave. You only got the money that you stole to get in. And then
That's
you can't.
it.
Once you run out of money, what happens? They start cannibalizing.
Yeah, it's like, once you're there, you're kind of there, and you only have that money you have to live on, and then, once you've spent it all, then you have to just still exist there.
Right.
And then when people end up cannibalizing each other, and it literally plays you read this Bunwellian hell that they literally go to hell.
That's what I really liked
a form
about
of hell on earth.
And it's almost like George knows he's going there. We added
Right.
that little bit of dialogue when he asked Kate right here, well, you know what El Rey is, you know where you're going. 'Cause she wants to go with him, and he didn't want to take her. One, the
Right.
money will go out sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
And 2,
yeah.
he wouldn't take her to hell.
Right.
That suitcase there represents all he's got, and he's going there with.
And maybe him and Richie in El Rey could have worked something out about it.
Right.
Because it was more like, he's going to hell, but Richie belongs in hell.
Right.
He can find peace. Richie can find peace in that place. He can't
Exactly.
be in these other places, but he can be there.
Right. That was that.
But
whole
now
idea.
it's all for naught.
Right.
Now.
So now he's going alone. That's why Cheech here says, Seth, it's time to go.
Time to go.
Takes him, and they go, and Kate's the only one left, really.
Sir,
Now, in the original script,
some company?
not the original, the rewrite of the script,
you know where I'm going?
this little piece of dialogue right over here.
Right.
I didn't write it.
Right.
All right. I wrote like the last 3 pages to come.
Oh, that's right. These last 3 pages were the phantom pages. Everyone but me was freaked out about because you confided that there was nothing fancy was going to happen. Everyone thought that
Everyone had built this big thing up that I was going to come up with this like big surprise and this big like Armageddon thing for the last 3
So we're
pages.
literally the whole movie waiting for these last 3 pages
And I'm like,
up
no.
to the day before. The day before
I know.
we left,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
still didn't know how the movie was going to end.
And I was like, no, guys, no, you got the wrong idea. All right. The reason I didn't write the last 3 pages is because you needed the script right away. And the feeling that we're at after, like, the place explodes, I want to end the movie right then.
Right.
All right. I want to end the movie. I don't want to piss away the energy that we have. It's like,
Right.
like Roger Corman always says, in a monster movie, when you kill the monster, the movie is officially over. Don't bullshit around with like 3 other fucking scenes, all right, and piss away all the energy you created. The movie is over. The monster's dead. There's nothing else to say.
It's over, get out, drive away. I did add one thing just because I wanted to make,
Yeah.
bring
this
home the
is great.
temple shot.
Oh,
this
this
is just
is
something
terrific.
that I added in just in production design. It was a matte painting. It's actually hanging in my house.
So I wanted them to actually
Old school stuff.
talk to each other, but like get done
out.
real quick. I wanted to leave with the same energy, and I couldn't do it at that moment, and so.
Right. This song actually, Dark Night by the Blasters, was one you played me knowing this is a song that we went in the opening credit sequence, and that kind of set the whole tone of the whole hillbilly Texas.
Honky
kinda
tonk Texas.
Going into the
Yeah.
Mexican vampire movie. There's
And-
Cheech with his 3 credits.
And then your the ZZ Top when you're
Dark Night
down
Sensor.
and
And then ZZ actually did us a new song that worked really
Yeah.
cool about sound that they based
know,
on
I know.
Santanico Pandemonium.
it wasn't until I was like listening to the CD, like way after the fact, I started listening to the words. I go, oh my god, they wrote this for the movie.
Salma, yeah, they saw that.
Santanico Pandemonium.
He sings in Spanish, and he's like, because they're all that border stuff. This is their whole routine in their first, more regional records. Where they're all going to the poorhouse, hanging out in Mexico, Tejas, and Big Wayo. So Juliet, I actually had a great time working. Juliet was the one that surprised me the most of anybody on the movie. I had so much fun. She's such a funny girl.
Oh, she's.
I would love to do a comedy with her. She's so funny.
Oh, I agree.
She cracked us all up the whole time, and she was just great to work with. Because you never know when sometimes young actors can be
Right.
kind of nuts or not show up, or I didn't know what it was going to be like to work with her. She was just beautiful.
As like filmmakers, you hear all these stories about this
You hear
actor
so
and
much
that actor
stuff,
and everything like
yeah.
that, and
You
Julia
don't know
was
what to expect.
dream, an absolute dream to work with. In fact, it was so funny because like me and George had such a good time with her, and it was like we really took it upon ourselves to was like, okay, Juliet is very overqualified for the role that she's playing in this movie. So the only way it makes it worth her while is that she has the best time in this movie that she's ever had on a movie ever.
I think
All right.
everyone had a great time with this
Yeah.
movie. What happened on this movie we didn't mention at all was that we had nice credits here to look at to see how many people we actually employed on this movie.
Right.
Because we actually give
Jerry
them all credit.
Martinez, one of my best friends from Video Archives.
There
He
he is.
designed the Titty Twister sign.
Yeah.
He does my posters for Rolling Thunder,
Exactly.
for Switchblade Sisters. He drew the poster. He designed the poster for the Chungking Express. He does all my posters for and all my Red Apple cigarettes and stuff.
So in this movie, we employed people that worked on Pulp, Four Rooms, and Desperado. We kind of brought the 2 camps
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
together.
exactly.
All our favorite people from our other past crews. And so from the get-go, it was like
Yeah.
a big family, fun,
Oh, completely,
hanging out
yeah.
with all our old... It was like making a backyard movie.
It really,
which we kept calling backyard movie.
It was a great combination of all the Robert people and all the Quentin people, actors, technicians, keys,
Big-
grips,
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
I mean, this is the movie. Like we said, we're going to take that year off, and this was
Yeah.
the same thing as taking that summer
Yeah,
off.
exactly.
Was making this movie. 'Cause
yeah,
it was
just hanging
so
out
much
with all
fun
of our
to do.
friends. Exactly.
And making a fun flick that you would watch eating pizza and drinking beer.
That was it. Like the same attitude that we wanted people to have when they watched the movie, we had while we were making it. Am I right?
Exactly. In fact, we were doing this. It was. I remember Harvey Keitel, the whole Bob Dole kind of everyone screwing Hollywood violent movies was going on right as we were shooting this. And,
Right.
and Harvey Keitel said, "What are people going to say about this movie we're making?" I was like, "No, there's nothing we can really do. This is a movie
Right.
that's supposed to go beyond the
Right.
line that you would normally cross. That's what people are expecting. So we can't pull back from that. We're going to have to actually go further than any of us would ever intend on going, which is why the kid gets munched so
Oh
hard."
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like one of the things was the fact that the true horror film audience has been feeling very bummed out because there's no like real small budget independent horror films coming out
Right.
that are like that great right now, and the studio ones all kind of suck big time because they're afraid of being called horror films.
Right. They don't. No
All
one
right.
likes that name.
Yeah, like,
They
so,
go around it all the time and say, "Well, we're not making one of those kind of movies."
Yeah, or it's more science fiction. It's whatever, you know. It's like it's not a monster movie. It's like studios will make a horror film, and they'll make it to get that audience that never goes sees horror films.
Right.
All right, because they want to cross over.
Right.
All right, and then we said no, we're making it for the horror fans, and everybody else is invited. This is exactly the movie we wanted to make,
Right.
man. You know, if you got a problem with it, you know what? That is your problem.
What I was really happy with is there were a lot of people who didn't know that the movie changed midway,
Right.
which they weren't supposed to. When you
Yeah,
wrote it,
exactly.
it was just
that
like
would
when I
be the
read
best
it.
way to, yeah.
The best way to see it
See
is
it.
to be watching it and thinking it's just what it is, like a heist film.
Right.
And it turns into, all of a sudden, the turn of a page. That's how your script goes. When you gave it to me and said, this is a horror script, I was reading it going, 40 pages in, I'm going, man, he must have given me the wrong thing, man. Where's the horror? And suddenly
Right.
it became that.
Right.
I've had so many people come up and say, man, I didn't know it was going to be
That's great.
that. And I was, for 20 minutes, I was wondering if you were just hallucinating off some tequila you drank or something. Because you're always flipping out anyway. They kept thinking it was a dream sequence. This was going to end at any second. But of course it never did. Well, I guess that's it.
There's no more movie left. They should have made it longer. We have so much more to say.
Thanks a lot for coming and watching, buying the Laserdisc. We're big fans
Yes,
of
exactly.
this sort of thing. So hope you enjoy it.
This is a lot of fun. And by the way, just to let you know, we did this we stopped at once, all right, but we did it in like one big go, no stop and start.
Right. All the way through. No, it's just like freewheeling it. But I guess you could tell that.
The fact that we bullshitted through it, you can tell.
See you guys later.
See ya.